Calvin Booth is fired. Michael Malone is fired. Most of the front office cleared out. Coaching staff TBD. We have the latest news for you. We're obviously going to break this down. Maybe the craziest breaking news of the Jokic era. We're going to cover it for you over the next hour. This is DNVR Nuggets. Unprofessional.
Guys, we're live.
Oh my God. Hey, everybody, don't say anything too crazy. We're live.
All right.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the DNVR Nuggets podcast.
No air horns. No air horns.
Wow. Yes, air horns.
Air horns.
I mean, it's a big show. It's a big show. We're presented by Bet365. Never ordinary. Download the Bet365 app and find out why. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. We're also in the Toyota Lounge, driven by your Front Range Toyota stores. Toyota, the official vehicle of DNVR. This is like when you're driving the Toyota on ice and it spins, and then you get out the car and you're like, hold on, am I okay? Luckily, 5-star safety rating, most of the vehicles, so we're perfectly fine.
Side airbags.
Harrison Wind.
Well, we all just got to the office, ready to do this emergency show. Sorry to everybody that was driving around me on the way here.
Yeah.
Probably a little erratic looking at my phone. But, man, a lot to talk about. Obviously, a seminal day in Denver Nuggets history. A sad day, I think, but, man, a lot to get into.
A crazy day. Definitely a sad day. Definitely tinges of sadness and just insanity. D-line.
Yeah, guys, I would say that I'm in shock, but I'm in shock to become in shock. I don't know what's happening. What's happening?
Michael Malone and Calvin Booth were fired.
And you're going to probably become more shocked
the last week
as
of the
it
season.
sets in more.
But hold on. You know what? Come back to me.
Rounding out the show, Brendan Vogt.
Does this count as a new chapter for the season?
Oh, God.
I think this is officially a new chapter.
Quick chapter. Everyone gets fired.
Abrupt ending. All right,
is this tariff based? Do we know that?
We're gonna have to revisit that and go over it. Just to recap the news real quick of what we know. Michael Malone was fired. He was let go today. This morning in a meeting, was informed that he was being let go. Calvin Booth was let go. Other members of the front office that I do not think have been reported have been let go, though not all. There are a few that are still being retained, at least in an interim role. And David Adelman will be taking over as the head coach going forward. So we've kind of done, this is what's great about this show, this emergency show. Yeah. We talk through a little bit. I don't know your guys' takes at all. At all.
I don't know my take.
But I'm going to start with this. It happened. This is the latest coach firing in NBA history.
Tied for the latest.
Tied for the latest with
Still
Hubie Brown. Hubie Brown like 40 years ago.
Right.
So
it's pretty much the latest in the modern era.
Yeah, we're still number one, baby.
I'm going to start with this. The Nuggets are in a play. Taylor Jenkins was fired 2 weeks ago, and it's like this late in the season in a playoff race. That's crazy.
The Nuggets just one up that.
Nuggets 2-upped it. Really, this is even crazier. But here's the thing. The Nuggets vibes, they're in a 4-game losing streak. The vibes, it wasn't just the losing streak, it's that the team looked despondent. I don't think there was a ton of hope. To me, with the wisdom of this move will play out over the coming weeks and even months, but to me, this signals first and foremost that the Kroenkes, who by the way have been around the arena a lot lately, I think they came into town and were like, we're going to sit on the bench. We're just going to observe everything that happens because we want to know what move we need to make. Them making this move is either crazy and irresponsible, or which is possible, or they looked at it and said, we know how this goes. 3 more games, maybe you go, whatever happens, you go into the playoffs and you do not win at any level. They have to have been making this move because they think it can be a shot in the arm and maybe save this season.
I think that could very well be the case. My initial reaction to it was how this season was trending, the losing streak they're on now, how things go in the playoffs. The way this was trending, this was probably going to happen the second the Nuggets lost in the playoffs, whatever round that was, unless they made a miraculous run to the finals and won a championship.
Agreed.
I feel like that was the only way that this move wasn't going to happen the second the offseason started.
Yeah.
So to me, this is ownership thinking that that's probably the direction this is going to go. We're going to eventually do this. So let's just do it now and get ahead of it and try to save and try to salvage what's left of this season, because I feel like this was a train that was going to go off track very, very soon. And it was already headed in that direction.
Might have been off track, to be honest with you.
Totally. And I think everybody looked at what was happening and said, we're going to do this summer, probably, most likely. Let's do it now.
But to me, that logic doesn't make sense, because at this point, if it was just that, it's like, okay, well, just wait till the end of the season. Don't look crazy. To me, this signals we cannot waste this year.
Yeah.
And this year is definitely not going to be a championship unless we do something. Does this going to be a championship? Probably not. That sounds crazy too.
And that's what Josh Kroenke also said in his statement.
Right.
I mean, statements, a lot of times they're bullshit, but in his statement, he did say, we made these moves with the main goal of winning the 2025 championship.
But I do want, my first thought is to just immediately push back on that, right? Like firing a coach tied for the latest firing before a postseason. Like, I don't actually, even if Malone, I think this was coming when they fell short. I think Malone had lost the locker room. I just don't think this kind of move is like, yeah, now we win the title. Like, where's the precedent for that? So to me, I almost look at it the other way. This is not going to happen. It made me thought of Jamal Murray's injury. Made me think like, if the word on that is real bad, like, honestly, we don't even know if he's going to go. Maybe that accelerates the timeline of like, this is all futile. But I'm going to be honest. I don't think this like suddenly ups your chances of winning a title. And I think it is a bit of an unceremonious exit for the guy who delivered you your first ever championship as a head coach. So I understand prioritizing this year. I just also want to acknowledge, does this prioritize this year? Like, I get trying something, but I just want to acknowledge that it's most likely not to work.
Unless their read on the situation, whether it was right or wrong, was that the locker room had quit, that this team had to completely quit, and we can't go into the playoffs with a quit team. So maybe this is like a non-quit.
Right.
I'm just,
no, that's
whether you agree or disagree, that I think is their calculus.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it makes me think, well, first off, when this happened to Taylor Jenkins, like, my read on that, I was like, there's no way this has to do with basketball. This has to be something that happened where there's like a personal clash or something larger than what's happening on the court. The Nuggets are in such a tailspin right now that it makes me wonder if it's like the Kroenkes are just like now paying attention, and maybe it's like this should have happened a while ago. There's like, we've heard about infighting, we've heard about, scheming, and basically the two sides that ultimately both got let go were sort of like angling towards each other. They were playing a little Game of Thrones during Jokic's prime, which is just insane to be doing. Like, that's when you need all systems go, everybody on the same page, working towards the same goal. But it just feels like the Kroenkes are finally like, hey, what's going on here? And they're finally starting to pay attention. And like, now they're like, oh my God, I can't believe we let it get this bad. And it's like, timing be damned. It's like, let's just, they've got to think about Arsenal. They've got to think about the Rapids, obviously. They've got to think about all these other teams. They were like, all right, just get out. Let's like keep what we know is good. Let's cut out the rest of the cancer and see what we can do. I have to imagine Jokic was involved with this. Like, there's no chance that they make this move without at least consulting with the all-world player, the greatest thing that ever happened to Denver Nuggets basketball.
Or the city in general. My life.
Or our lives.
I'm upset they didn't consult with me. Maybe I missed a call.
Yeah, you were sleeping.
I was sleeping. But this is the most shocking news I've ever encountered as a Denver sports fan my entire life.
Stunning.
I cannot believe that this happened this close to the playoffs. It speaks very loudly to the dysfunction that was happening behind the scenes. And listen, like, I mean, I don't know. I just can't. I'm having a very hard time understanding this, but like, this says to me that like it was way worse than we even imagined.
100%. And again, we're going to share a lot because I think this is how this always goes, is whatever you've been hearing over the, years or months or whatever.
Now you tell us.
Because a lot of the things are obviously not, you don't have it on record.
For sure,
but you can share some more context here.
For sure.
The one thing I will say, because I thought you brought a great point up about when did the Kroenkes, yes, the first I was so shocked. When did the Kroenkes realize this? And I do think that there were like, reports and okay, what's going on with the team? I see this, or that. But maybe eyes not focused on it, because did Malone lose the locker room in the last 2 weeks?
I know.
Did something major shift in the last year?
No, this has been the whole season.
It's been the whole year.
But I do think that, to your point, the Kroenkes were hyper focused on it in the last 2 months.
What's going on over there?
They're like, oh my God. So to me, again, the team has to believe that this team has more upside. I mean, we've been saying it all year. You watch the roster and they have holes, but God, the Wizards?
Yeah, they're worse than the sum of their parts somehow. There's no doubt. They are.
And I think that they looked at it and said, okay, it's everything. This building sucks.
Yeah.
The vibe in this building, and this is something we've been saying. When I came into the year and predicted, I was like, I'm lower than everyone on the team. It was because for years, I know the pulse of like different factions of a team, the coaches, players, that. And this year it was across the board horrible. Yeah. And I was just like, man, this office has a cloud over it in a way that I just can't imagine this team succeeding to their highest standards. So that was the whole year. But now, is it more intense, or is it just that the Kroenkes are paying attention? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and I think what's at the core of the issue, and was at the core of the issue, was the conflict between Michael Malone and Calvin Booth. It was a marriage that,
100%.
As we talked about all season, there was real conflict there. There's been real conflict for years. And I mean, I don't think it was ever going to work out. So I think Calvin Booth and Michael Malone probably always had an expiration date. I'm not sure those two were ever going to be able to coexist forever. It was just going to be a matter of how long could we stay on this path and keep winning enough to make keeping us together make sense.
But what's shocking is they didn't pick one or the other. They just said neither,
100%.
and we're not waiting till the summer.
100%.
That's the, that's the part that's. I mean, look, I think partying with Booth was necessary, and I don't say that lightly. Like, these are, as the chat have pointed out, these are real people that we know, right? And this is a job, and it's actually not easy to just get up here and be like, yeah, that guy deserved it. But I think it was time. Like, I think partying with Booth was the necessary move. Honestly, even if they had made the Western Conference Finals, I would have said it. But I do. Really? I think Malone at least deserved this run. But I do think he had lost the locker room. I just think this is, admittedly, maybe it was necessary, right? You don't have time to waste with Jokic, but it feels like an unceremonious, if not disrespectful, exit to a guy who, I think
the winningest coach in Nuggets.
There's no other way
pretty
to frame
important place, right, in Nuggets history.
There's no other way to frame it. It's extremely disrespectful to what Michael Malone provided for the Denver Nuggets and what he's meant to this organization in totality. That being said, I mean, people make their bed, that's where they end up lying. I just feel like for it to be this sort of like scandalous feeling and this sort of unceremonious is a great way to say it, is like, I don't actually, I like find it like very off-putting. That
it's just really sad, man. It's really sad how this is how it's ending. And that's actually the first emotion I felt.
Yeah.
It's just a sad day, man.
It does feel like, I mean, obviously the show rolls on, and as long as Jokic is here, this feels like the same era, but this is by far the biggest era. Well, it's the same era, and that it's going to go down as the Jokic era. Yeah. Like, that's the top line. Right. But there is the sub part of this, which is the Jokic and Malone era, the Jokic and Murray era. Like, those are the next lines on that chart. And the fact that Jokic has only ever played for one coach until tomorrow night, it feels heavy.
For the NBA, yeah.
For the NBA, yeah.
Right,
It just feels so heavy. It feels meaningful. It feels uncertain. I want to go back to your part, though, because how do you juggle this? The emotional thing, because I agree with you. This is unceremonious. He deserved better, all those things. But I also look at it and go, this is the greatest season I've ever witnessed a player have.
I know.
And the Nuggets are trying to say, we're going to do anything. So I I agree with you, but I also get it in a weird way.
Yeah.
But my feeling is that, so we can, let's just, for sake of argument, we can all agree this change had to be made.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was untenable. It couldn't be fixed. The locker room was lost. There's feuding. Like, all things that lead to unsuccessful organizations are happening behind the scenes with the Denver Nuggets. This timing, to me, is, again, this is like, goes back to the Kroenkes. Like, bro, are you like, okay, this didn't just happen over this last week. Like, this is sort of like, if you are going to be this decisive and reactionary, why is it happening right now? Like, this should have happened 6 months ago. This should have happened 3 months ago. Something like, for it to happen in this way and then have that asterisk and that byline or the subtext of, this is the latest it's ever happened in NBA history. This is like another thing that's going to be on Michael Malone's record. Like, he got fired unceremoniously and undeservedly in Sacramento, and then now this happens, and it's like, bro, come on, man. Like, you can't, you can't do
Right.
like that type of stuff ripples. Like
But
that
it does have ripples. There's no question about it. And you might very well be right. This is so like raw to
sure.
me that I have no idea.
plain.
Yeah. But I do want to say this because you said they owed it to him. And I would argue that the organization owes to Nikola Jokic more than anybody else in the entire building. They owe to him. And if they look at this year and go, he just gave us a masterpiece of a season, his greatest of all time. He's the greatest thing that's ever happened to us. We owe it to him first. And are we just going to punt on the season? Are we going to give, however crazy of a shot it is, to change coaches and try to make a run? To me, there's that part of it too that also feels like I can understand the ethic in that of like, well, you know what? We owe it to him to just do whatever we can, and this is our only route. We're going to keep breaking this down on the other side. If you're new to the show, there's a lot of people right now tuning in live, probably for the first time. We do this 5 times a week. We cover every pregame and postgame. You're going to want to check it out, so make sure you're subscribed to this. We have great guests and stuff from around the Nugget sphere. You're not going to want to miss it, but we're going to take a break. Hop in the chat right now, the Toyota chat, and let us know. Eric's going to hop in there and respond to you. Let us know.
And I wanted to say thank you to Lakers fans here to dance on our graves. We appreciate the numbers. It actually we make money off this, so thank you.
Also, don't get too excited, man. Don't get too excited
Like,
just yet.
what are you talking about?
Guys, shout out to our friends over at Bet365. Bet365 is never ordinary.
What were the
Use
odds
the
on
code
this?
DNVR365 when you sign up. I'd say plus money to happen right now. I'd say that. Bet365, they are an official partner of the Denver Nuggets and Colorado Avalanche. And they have an early payout offer for basketball bets. If your team goes up by 20 points, you get an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners. And download the app. Use the code DNVR365 when you sign up. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose.
Can you imagine if they played the Kings next and lost and he was fired then?
The Kings have the opportunity to do the funniest thing.
Oh, well, man.
Sign up, use the code DNVR365, deposit $10. You can place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Use the code DNVR365 when you sign up. Also, shout out to Miller Lite, the best light beer out there. I need a Miller Lite right now.
Oh my
I need
God.
That great tasting.
Can we get a
refreshing
tower?
light
Is it
beer.
off- is it off
I need a
brand?
personal tower.
Is it off-brand to have a Miller Heavy?
It might
is.
You might
Yeah.
need a Miller Heavy tonight.
From basketball and hockey to game night, winter means more and more moments with the coolest people in your lives with Miller Lite. Make them better with Miller Lite, the best light beer out there, perfect for any occasion. If you're listening to a podcast, if you're, just
podcast
chilling
beer.
with your buddies,
Dude, this is the
Shower
ultimate
beer,
podcast.
Miller Lite
camping beer,
is
podcast
your
beer.
beer.
If you're mourning or celebrating a move,
Yeah.
It's the taste you can depend on. Clean finish, refreshing, easy to drink, 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. The taste you can depend on, brewed for taste and just 96 calories. Miller Lite, great taste, 96 calories. Go to MillerLite.com/DNVR to find delivery options near you. Or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
All right, back here, hit that like button, DNVR Nuggets podcast,
the
download wherever
like.
you get your podcasts.
get people in here. Hit the
Here,
like.
here is the truth that we have been telling you for a while, and this is the real story of what's happening right now. Calvin Booth and Michael Malone had no organizational alignment, and that can't happen. I don't know. Since the last dance with the Chicago Bulls, which obviously ended with Jordan retiring and the team falling apart, but at least they won a title. But I don't know of another situation where those two entities got along as poorly as these two have. And so when we talk about deserve and who's to blame and this or that, before you can say who was right in that war or wrong, those two not seeing eye to eye and not being able to is really what this is about.
It's what happened.
It's why they both got fired. It was an organization needs buy-in from players to coach to front office to ownership. Everything has to be in alignment. And this was as far misaligned as I could possibly imagine. Some of the stories about how misaligned it is would blow your mind. To like you hear about major decisions and you're like, hold on, what? That's how this org is being run. So To me, wherever you want to go, that's what happened today. Was the Cronkies came in and said, we can't go one way or the other because both of you seem to not be able to get along with it or to collaborate in any meaningful way.
Yeah.
And this was the biggest change in regimes, right? From Tim Connolly to Calvin Booth. I think even bigger than team building philosophy was just sort of like the Nuggets enjoyed remarkable organizational alignment for a long time. Like they just did. There were discrepancies, but ownership to the front office to coaching staff were all pulling in the same direction for half a decade there.
And in that era, I think it required a lot of ego swallowing on certain individuals, but not all. Like I think Malone's a big presence. And so I think he's part of this, whether he's right or wrong. And Tim Connolly, I think, is somebody who probably was better at internalizing I can't win this.
Yes.
So am I going to fight it or am I going to go with it?
Navigating that egos would inevitably be a part of it.
Right.
And so, the Nuggets did have this really insane culture for a long time. The kind of quotes we've seen out of the locker room lately, we never heard that. The stuff of this kind of tension between the front office and the coaches, we never heard it. And to be honest, since Calvin Booth took over, we've heard a lot of it. And I think between the two of them, they both hold responsibility. I wrote that piece about sacrifice. Malone had to sacrifice some of his ego here a long time ago, I think. Yep. And it was maybe a little bit too late. But it's also true that he was put behind the 8 ball by Calvin Booth, right? So it was the tug of war of egos during a time when someone had to actually be, quote, the steward of Jokic's tenure. And instead it was an ego battle. And I think ultimately that's what cost both of these men these jobs, timing notwithstanding.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, if you think about this, the insane, almost, I don't know, just the situation both of those guys found themselves in, being able to not only coach, but also be the GM, the steward of the Nikola Jokic era.
A gift. An
absolute gift. And the fact that this is what it came to is just so damning and so embarrassing, frankly, that the two of them. And, like, if I'm just speaking frankly, like, I put this on Calvin Booth. Like, I really feel like they had something going. The team was going to a certain place. Michael Malone was the head of it for the longest time. Calvin Booth came in with his own philosophy, his own thoughts on how things should be doing. We heard for years, maybe he wasn't always aligned with the way that Conley ran the team, but like now it was his time. And he had this way of going about things, this very concrete way of looking at things that he would express to us frequently with no uncertain language. He would just say things that you're like, oh, bro, what? Like, how can you look at the players like that? How can you look at and communicate and speak about the players and other people in this way, in such a mechanical way? And to me, it took them both down, but it's like, it frustrates me that then, a guy like Michael Malone wasn't able to, like you say, put the ego down and just sort of like figure out, okay, how are we going to all work together? We would hear all the time,
but openly sabotage too. Because I think you're letting Malone off the hook a little bit.
I don't
here.
know. Listen, I don't know all the stories. Like, I'm just saying, like, if I look at the genesis of this, like where they were 2 years ago to where they are right now, there's one difference in the way that it's being run. And it's with the philosophical direction coming from the front office. Like the coaching staff was the same the whole time.
But to be fair, because I think you're right about framing the difference between Tim Connolly and Calvin Booth. Like they're in a lot of ways super extremes.
Yeah,
they share
they're polar opposites.
They share a skill of being great scouts. I've heard from a lot of different people that both of them are two of the best scouts in all of the NBA.
Yeah.
When you just talk about their eyes for talent, both of them in their different way. Tim Connolly, though, as much as it is a virtue, and right now we see it, he also was a guy who maybe over-indexed on that, held on to guys too long, was, had too much faith in guys who didn't have it. So I think there is like a healthy middle, and maybe the organization swung like, okay, we see a weakness here, we got to make the big move. You go to Cal, and like in transition from one polar to the other, hit just the sweet spot for 1 year to win a title, but then just swung so far that now, to your point, everyone in that building feels like they're not part of something. And that's what happened. I really believe that's what happened.
I mean, I think that's what happened. And I think it's like pretty clear that the waters were so poisoned with things that were outside of the team entirely that you look at both guys like, we need adults here. Like we need people that are just not going to make it about them, that are going to make it about Nikola Jokic, that are going to make it about me, Eric Wedum, D-line, that are going to make it about the fan. Like, just like looking larger than their little office drama. We work in an office. Sometimes you just run into things. This guy has an agenda about this, that. And you have to take a step back and be like, what are we doing? Nobody cares. Like, we have a larger purpose here, people. And we have not only a larger purpose for the city of Denver, there's a larger purpose for who Nikola Jokic is with respect to basketball, with respect to the history of the game, with respect to Serbia. I mean, there's just so many larger things at play that then if you're feuding internally about whether or not Jalen Pickett should play or this, that, or the other, like you've lost the plot. You've lost the plot. And I just hate.
Well, kind of. But here's the other part of it. Zeke, it's not just Zeke Naji. You sign him to a deal.
Totally.
And it's fully understood that we're signing this guy to a deal because we have to play him. Like the reason Zeke Naji was signed was to be traded because they only had max contracts and min contracts. And they're like, $8 million is safe as long as he doesn't completely shit the bed or not play. He didn't play.
Right.
And and I think that was honestly deliberate. It was a little bit of a
totally.
Well, I know what this will look bad on.
Like, why are we talking about Zeke Naji when we're talking
because
it's in the world of Zeke
represents what the
Jokic.
core problem was.
Yes.
And that was that these guys could not work together.
That's what I mean, though. Like, why?
And to win championships in the NBA, you have to be aligned.
Yeah.
To be a dynasty in the NBA, you have to be on the same page, and they weren't. And it was obviously never going to happen. The stories we've heard about the Michael Malone Calvin Booth conflict will blow your mind.
Share them.
They would blow your mind. I mean, I don't know if they're 100% true. I've heard them from both sides.
Right.
The stuff about Zeke Naji, Jalen Pickett, what goes on behind closed doors. Like, some of the stuff you hear, you wouldn't believe because it's like, how can a coach and GM operate in that kind of relationship and like still work together? But I mean, those two did not have a good relationship. Like, they went long times without speaking to one another. Like, that's just how they operated, and it's crazy. But they could never get on the same page with stuff like that. And if you can't get on the same page, it's just not going to work.
And when I talk about, like, because I love Tim Conley, and obviously I think Calvin Booth has done a worse job, because of his flaws are like more poisonous and swung so far. When I say that the Nuggets won a title in transient between the two, like when Cal was able to just give enough, to me the move is not even the KCP one, which I do think Tim Conley probably would have made, although didn't, but
maybe
probably.
We don't know.
But maybe would have. But or Bruce Brown or whatever. The one to me was the Bones Highland one, which really explains the difference between the two. I do not think Tim Conley would have moved on from him.
Why? Just because he reacquired him?
What's that?
Just because he reacquired him?
Yeah, exactly. I'm telling you, he has a lot of faith in his guys, like as people, which is inspiring. But it's also like, hey man, that guy has to work for himself, and he's not doing it. And I honestly don't think the Nuggets win without that move. Not because Reggie came in and did literally anything, but because Bones got out of the way. He got out of the locker room, and they needed that to move forward. So my point is, there is, I think, a correct transient between the two. It's just the right was like right here, and they swung, like over the last 3 years, they've swung to the furthest extreme over here of a vibeless, soulless organization.
And to go back to what I was saying, they have to work together. Like, I think both guys, there's a lot of blame to put on both sides of this. How can Michael Malone never build a functioning bench in the last 5 years?
Yep.
What the hell?
Not once with so many different people
How
involved.
could they never build a bench that could just stay even?
I agree.
In the non-Jokic minutes in the last 5, like what?
Or like a
biggest
-3. Or like a -3.
How
Just a
could that
salvageable-
never be done?
Yeah, it has
it's
to be
inexcusable, man, with all the talent that's come through these doors. And then on the Calvin Booth side, it's obvious that his plan, the dynasty route, getting these young guys in the draft, putting them into the system, having this rotating cast around the core of this team, maybe that could work. It wasn't going to work with Michael Malone. And that was a miscalculus on his part.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of blame on both sides, but the fact that neither guy was going to budge from their core beliefs, that's what ended this thing. Because if one of those sides did budge, if there was some compromise, it could have worked. But both guys stood firm and held on to how they believed was the best way to run a team and coach a team. And in the end, nobody budged, and this is what happened.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta feel like, Stan Kroenke comes and sits on the bench a couple weeks ago. Everyone's like, well, this is kind of weird. I just got to think they've been talking to people around, and like
Correct.
And then they just sort of like learned of like, are you serious? They did that. It's like a cutting your nose to spite your face situation where you're just, I am just speculating. I don't have the same inside information that you necessarily do, but like it just feels like they just uncovered enough where we're like, okay, wow. I thought it looked bad from the outside, which is hilarious because he's the owner of the team. To then learn the full inner workings, like, oh, really? Like, wow. So we're not making decisions based on whether or not it's going to ultimately benefit the Denver Nuggets, but whether or not it's going to make this side look good,
correct,
to the Kroenkes, or this side look bad to the Kroenkes, or to the media or whatever. Like, and that to me is the only thing that can really speak to this timing, because this timing is unbelievable.
I don't think the older guys who have been here maybe have a little bit more roots or this or that. I don't think the young players enjoy being a Denver Nugget. And I think it's because of all the chaos that they're thrown into. Not that that's the most important thing, but I do think a lot of young guys look around the league and are like, damn, I'd love to be traded. I just would love to be somewhere else because this feels like I'm in the middle of a game that I'm a piece of.
And like, whose side am I? Am I a Booth guy? Am I a Malone guy? Like, meanwhile, I'm probably just trying to hoop. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that tension has been there. We've talked about this. That tension has been there all year. And it's, again, I just kept thinking, getting to cover these games recently, we just never, this stuff was not in the air for like 7 years. It just wasn't at all. Even when there were disagreements or disappointments, there was never a sense of palpable tension. And honestly, it feels like people stopped enjoying coming to work for the Denver Nuggets, from the players to the coaches to the front office. And like, I, for a long time, had the opposite sense. Like, wow, people really like coming here. People really like being a part of this organization. And for the last, I think, couple of years across different levels, that just has stopped being the case. And you can feel it in the air. It is heavy in the air in that arena. And very curious to see what's in the air going forward.
Yeah. Let's take another break. On the other side, I want some stories, some background, and continued analysis. And then later on in the show, where do we go from here? Let us know in the chat right now, where do we go from here? What are you hoping? What is your most optimistic take about what's going to happen with the rest of the season? I'm curious what the vibe is like for people in the chat.
Game Time is where we go to get tickets for concert shows, sporting events, Nuggets tickets, Avs tickets, Rockies tickets, Broncos tickets coming up. Whatever you need, Game Time's got it. And the really cool thing about Game Time is they have a great app, super easy to use, shows you all the ticket prices right there on the app. They have a feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. They filter out all the fluff to just show you the best deals. You go into Game Time and boom, you just are presented with the best tickets right there, first thing you see. So it's really easy to use. It works really great. And you can use it for concert shows, sporting events, Nuggets, Avs, Broncos coming up. All in pricing, seat views, lowest price guarantee, Game Time ticket coverage. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Go to the Game Time app, download it, create an account, and use code DNVR. Make sure you use the code DNVR. $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account, redeem code DNVR for $20 off. You can see it right there on the screen. Views from your seat, exact prices there.
Friday's game will be interesting. If I'm looking for tickets to a game, Friday is a pretty interesting game. I'd hop on Game Time.
Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Also, shout out to Toyota. We're live from the Toyota Lounge, of course. And Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR. Trucks have always been part of Toyota's DNA. For generations, Toyota has built durable legends destined for greatness and perfect for Colorado. They offer 17 models available all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, like the Epic 4Runner. They also have more low and zero emission vehicles combined than any other automaker. 16 different hybrid vehicles to choose from, like the Tundra iForce Max hybrid truck. They got SUVs like the RAV4 and the Grand Highlander, no matter what type of terrain you're on, city, mountain, whatever it is. Toyota has a car for you.
Maybe need a truck with a big area to pack things in.
Yeah.
To head out of town.
Yeah. Oh. A lot of trunk space. Visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation, Toyota, Arapahoe, and Centennial. Corwin, Toyota, and Boulder. Groove, Toyota, and Littleton. Mountain States, Toyota, and Denver. Stevenson, Toyota, East and Aurora. Stevenson, Toyota, West and Lakewood. Toyota is a proud partner of the Denver Nuggets and the official vehicle of DNVR. Let's go places.
All right, let's get into a few stories here that I think are shareable from this time that I think will help better paint a picture. And
Yes.
again, I think I'm the least surprised of this. The timing is pretty crazy, the 3 games. But to me, I even said this on the All-NBA show whenever Taylor Jenkins was fired. I was like, Denver is likely to be an option. And I remember Legs was like, what are you talking about? Look at this. I'm not surprised. I thought both guys were getting fired at the end of the year was the likeliest
end
thing.
of the year, though.
That's what I'm saying. What I'm surprised about is that I'm here today right now.
right,
But
right.
the end result. And I'm going to give you an example of the early days here of this tension because Cal, I'm going to give him credit. I think Cal's really, really smart. He's a really good scout, and he's really smart. And like, I'll bet he's good at video games where you like, build worlds and stuff. You know what I mean? Like he's an architect.
He's good at Minecraft. Is what you're
He's
saying.
an architect by nature, and that like he can hold a lot of different I always enjoy talking. He's actually one of the most fun people I've ever talked to
awesome.
basketball because he thinks in very abstract ways, but then articulates them very clearly. And I'm always just like, man, that was really impressive. That's like 10% of the job. The job is all this other stuff. And to give you an example, early in his tenure, he hired a guy named Mike Penberthy, who you might have heard about. This is a guy who is a shooting instructor, and he came in and said, I'm going to make this guy, because he was trying to build a whole system. He wanted to rebuild the Denver Nuggets organizationally, and I think there's good intentions in there. He's like, the new next wave of basketball has to have this infrastructure.
He hired a lot of new guys when he took over.
A lot of new guys. And
Scouts, personnel.
And he hires a guy, a shooting coach named Mike Penberthy, and Michael Malone says, no. That's a coach. And he was right. That's a coach. You just hired a coach. I hire coaches. Or at very least, we collaborate. You're handing a guy that you want to be in my gym that's your guy. And I think Malone probably rightfully sensed that was like a spy. Like if you're giving me a coach, he's your guy. I didn't hire him. And now you want him on my staff knowing everything that goes on. But I think even furthermore, it's like he said, no, you're not in the building. And that created a weird tension because, again, I think Cal should have seen this coming. And I think Malone it just shows you how disagreeable the two were. But he put somebody in the building who started working with Zeke Naji, started working with other, and they had to go outside the building for most of their workouts or schedule time to when it was not official time. And that shows you, one, Cal's good intention, horrible execution, and probably maybe even secondary motives. And Malone understanding the potential secondary motives, but also the complete, no, we're not doing this. And it just shows you, that's an example of the level of dysfunction and how that's one example of 1,000 of how I think the two were building separate organizations.
And also, I think so much of it spilled out through the media, right? Like, it wasn't just us giving reads. You guys got the quotes. What did Booth say after the deadline about Z? Well, we're figuring out something that I've known for a while, which is that he's a 4, right? Where was Malone playing him for a while? 5. Was that quote really to the fans or
no
the media?
Subtlety, man.
No,
subtlety.
It was to Michael Malone. And those two exchanged very similar barbs in such a manner quite a lot, right? And every time you heard Malone stop himself to mention the difficulties of building with a young roster, he wasn't just hyping up the kids. He was taking a shot at the roster construction. So, how long it took to get Jalen Pickett going. Maybe that was a lot to ask of Michael Malone. I certainly am on the Malone side of this disagreement if I had to pick a side, but I acknowledge it also took him a while and he played a role in it. Maybe it took him too late to get to this point where he's going to play Pickett and play all these guys consistently and where they should be. I do think Malone eventually acquiesced and embraced it, but it took a while. And that's part of what I think ultimately cost him here. But you could see it. Like, this wasn't just us trying to tell you. They were in the quotes. These guys have been arguing publicly for quite some time. And I will say, if you just start from the line of, that can't be the case, the organization doesn't have time to deal with it, that's all very rational. It's a very understandable place for ownership to start from and go forward from.
Yeah, it's crazy. The industry that we're talking about this is not a normal industry
at all.
This is 100% competition, alpha male, cutthroat. That is the nature of this. It is a competition-based industry. Not every industry is met with this level of competition. So it's not that surprising that both guys that have been able to work up through it and found themselves at a position were not willing to bend on their philosophy and their way of looking at it. It's unfortunate because that's the way that things work the best in life is when you have cooperation and shared vision and, philosophical alignment and all of these things that you hope are coming together when you're talking about a team that an organization that a team is so much more than just an organization. Like people place their emotional well-being, for example, me in this organization, it really affects people outside of those walls.
Yeah.
But I'm not surprised that both of those guys were super hard-headed and didn't want to give up on the way that they saw the world because it ultimately netted them their jobs and their station. But my God, man, you just look at it now and you're like, why? Why did it have to be like this? Why can't you guys can't find any alignment?
Right. You have this
No,
gift.
by the way,
that's
no.
Nikola Jokic.
Yes.
Yeah. Can't you just be the better person and get over yourself?
But here's the thing. I honestly think the answer is no. And I don't mean as in they couldn't. I don't think they could.
Clearly.
Not in that they didn't, not that I don't think
it wasn't
they could.
going to happen.
I think Malone has a lot of great qualities. Collaboration is probably not one of them.
No.
I think he is a guy with
Both
incredible
those guys, that's what
vision.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
And Cal, I know this to be true. He has this inner architecture that he sees, and he cannot concede on any of it.
They're both super black and white guys.
Yep. Yeah.
Which can benefit you if I just mean
Archie says, whoa.
Archie is the
Wow, I didn't realize this was a race thing. You've uncovered a whole new layer.
they're in that one is black and one is white. That's what I mean by that.
Okay, yeah,
obviously.
that's black and white.
Let me just make that clear. But they are both very concrete thinkers, which can be very useful when you're going through turbulence and unsure times. You have a steadying force. You don't have somebody that flip-flops and wavers and they're like, oh, what are we going to do every day? Malone is just that can serve you well. But the idea that you guys could not find a single piece of common ground. And listen, I would hear things from you guys that were just echoing from places unknown throughout the years about they really want to play Pickett, and Malone is not playing Pickett. They really want to play, the young guys, they really want to play the young guys. Malone is not playing the young guys. It's they want to...
But then Julian was a Malone guy, so he played an enormous amount.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's just then you put these young men's careers in jeopardy because you're using them as pieces to make a point, to, form this internal argument. And I mean, I'm not surprised, given now 20 minutes to think about this. This makes sense that this fell off the tracks because of the way that the two of them are built. But
it was inevitable.
Insane that you cannot find middle ground.
The Kroenke, to me, if you want to be mad at the Kroenkes, it's for arriving at this point.
At this stage, right now.
Yeah, at arriving here. And I do put that blame on them. I think that the Tim Conley exit was more emotional than it was logical. The way they responded to it. Yeah. And I think that their lack of seeing around the corner for the last 2 years, to me demonstrates a hesitancy. I'm going to give another story, though, just because I want to continue. I think people enjoy the stories, but also I want to give some context. Everybody knows I was high on Jalen Pickett, and I've referred to how I was not high on him before training camp his rookie season. And one of the stories I had heard from somebody inside the summer workouts was that, if you remember, it was Colin Gillespie and him. And I know that they would be playing scrimmages. Malone would come in and reorganize the teams and then throw to stack a deck or make somebody look bad and then mimic things about Pickett's weaknesses in his game, in fury. And I just was like, man, he hates that guy. He is going to. So it just gives you, again, some more context to that level of gamesmanship to players' careers and just preference and stuff shows you how. That's why I always say, man, we judge players on this guy's doing well, this guy's not. It's there's a lot of context that goes into individual success, especially at the lower levels.
I mean, I think Michael Malone hated some of the players that Calvin Booth bought in and brought into this team, whether it was a draft, whether it was via free agency. I think he hated them because Calvin Booth brought them in.
That's it. That's exactly
and
it.
I think Calvin Booth hated, or not hated, but disliked some of the players on this team because they were Michael Malone guys.
Equal hate. I think, but I don't think either one of them had more of this in them than the other.
Yeah.
I think they were matched.
And honestly, the conflict was so loud that that's what it boiled down to.
Yeah.
Calvin Booth drafted this guy. I'm just not going to. He's just not my type of guy.
Right.
This is the guy Michael Malone really likes. Right. Not my type of guy. And that's how things
I know.
divulge. Like that's where it got to.
And
it's crazy, like how it happened like
And
that.
I'm certain that they both feel the same level of responsibility for the title. Like,
there's no question.
If not for me, this
no
would not
question.
have happened. If not for me, bringing in KCP, this would not have happened. If not for me laying out this offense, and this would not have happened. And perhaps both are true, but it's like it also led them to a place where, it's been said. One of my favorite quotes from Brendan is that Calvin came in and he won Tim's title. He just came in and won. Like this was put together. This was almost there, and then you make one last piece, and it gets over the top, and it's like, then we see like what then the plan is afterward. And it's like I don't know what we're doing here. Like we're relying on young players, which we all listen like. Along the way, people will yell at us like, project bullshit, blah, blah. Like, all we can do is just look at what we're given. And for me specifically, I can be like, well, I can see how this can work philosophically. Like, these are not necessarily moves I would make, but I'm going to buy in because why not? Like, what else are we left with?
That's the story of ALLCITY, by the way. And one of the lessons I've learned over 5 years is it's like I don't get to determine everything.
Yeah, but like I'm going to try and make it fun along the way. I'm going to try and see the best through it.
If this is the way we're going, then I have to throw my full weight behind it now to make it work.
You can also be wrong the other way. Like it's really easy to be like, this won't work about everything, and statistically you will look correct. But like that same that same approach could have caused one to maybe miss that the Nuggets were going to win their first ever title. So we were wrong about stuff, I think, along the way, each of us individually and
sure
different things, right? But I think part of it is like it's not even just the team building stuff. That's really what I want to stress. Like Booth took this job and he siloed himself off. What was once a very collaborative organization lost that touch and feel very quickly. And again, I just think all of it was conducive to tension building and in some cases unacknowledged or unresolved tension. And like we've reached a boiling point. And I just, like it's not just somehow you cannot like this roster. I think a lot of people don't. Somehow they become, less than the sum of their parts. I think that's on Malone. I also think there's a sort of organizational cultural rot thing that we're at year 3 of now. That's just not going to work. And so that's why even if I think they had made it back to the conference finals or the finals, I probably still would have advocated for some of this change. I think it's what they lost when they moved on from Tim. And it's, I got emotional on that episode, got kind of killed for it, but like it wasn't all just trading for Aaron Gordon. Like I happened to know that Tim was really collaborative. I happened to know that people liked coming to work for him. I didn't know if it was going to result in a title, and Calvin got the title. So that's
and he had weaknesses too. But what you're hitting at here is that he was good at understanding that the vibes actually matter.
That part of it, and I guess my bottom line is it's not a coincidence that there's a huge break in culture right when Tim left. I think that lines up very naturally for me. And that's how I see it.
Yep. All right, let's got to take one last break. On the other side, more break. This was going to go a long show. We have no reason not to. Oh, my God. I can't believe we have a Leeds game going on during this.
That's
for
not
everyone in
cheering for
Leeds.
But
this
we're going to
show.
talk about what next, because that's obviously where we have to turn our attention on the other side. I can't believe we have Leeds right now. Oh, I'm in hell.
Let's use this mini break to talk about why you should become a DNVR diehard. We got a lot of new people in the chat. A lot of new people watching this show right now. We have something at DNVR called a DNVR diehard membership. And what you get with this is everything, pretty much. You get all our written content on the website. You get a free t-shirt designed by D-Line right here.
That's right.
You get so many other perks, discounts to our events here in Denver. You get access to our Discord channel, which is just a 24-hour Nuggets chat room. We share insider stuff in there. We're in there all the time talking with the guys. Like, it's a chat room of hundreds and hundreds of Nuggets fans that are constantly talking about the team without all, the noise that comes with Twitter and other social media. So sign up to become a DNVR diehard right now. If you want to support us, this is the best way to do it. Go to thednvr.com. There should be a link in the description right now. But it's the best way to support us. And if we just got 50 people to sign up in the chat, that'd be huge.
And listen, there are days and moments in the life of a fan where you really prove whether or not you are in fact a diehard. The die easies will all flutter away, but the die hards are going to hunker down, realize that all we have is us, and we're going to get through this together, or we won't, but it'll be together.
Yeah. We'll get through it together. All right, back here, last little bit. And I just want to clear something up. One thing about me personally. I actually think, my personal opinion is that I think both guys probably needed to go. You never feel 100% certain about that. I would say I felt more certain about that for Cal than Malone, but I also felt like that was probably the case for Malone just based on a lot of what I said. But now the question becomes, where do you go from here? And let me start with this. I think that the Nuggets now have the most attractive head coaching job in the entire NBA.
No question.
By far.
Not even close.
By far, the chance to coach Nikola Jokic to me is the number one thing. I know that's obviously not going to come till this summer. They're going to give Adelman a run.
Do we know?
What's that?
I mean, is anything off the table?
You're right. It would be like that's what I've heard is that Adelman's going to give us the run out the tape here, and maybe he is. I would guess he's a candidate. I think the players really like him.
Definitely a candidate.
But at least if we start from there, this becomes Yoke's kind of halfway through his career, probably a little bit more, but basically, there is a coach out there that has to look at this and say he's one of the 10 greatest players to ever play, and he's in his prime. Please give me the job.
There should be coaches lining up right now. Like, we should be able to drive over to Ball Arena right now, and the top head coaching candidates should be there knocking on Josh Kroenke's door.
Spoelstra maybe quietly resigns out of nowhere.
I'm sure there are coaches around the league that are like, how tight knit is my contract? Actually,
exactly. Is
like,
there a side
they're
door?
calling their agent right now, or they should be being like, "Can I maybe get out of this and go coach Nikola freaking Jokic?"
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing is that, like, I feel like the Michael Malone era of coaching was done from sort of an old school grit, you know, like, we're going to come together. I'm going to trust my guys. We're in the foxhole together. He's a war general. That style of coaching, which obviously netted a title, and resulted in a better record every single year. I think he's an excellent team building coach. But now it's like, now we're kind of at the time where we need a tactician.
And I think they're going to hire somebody that's very different from Michael Malone, if I had to guess.
Well, yeah. You don't hire now a Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah.
You don't hire like an old school, like, just like get out there kind of coach. Like, now you look at like the new breed of gum chewing, vest wearing coaches.
Yeah.
Like,
because like Michael Malone he's what I'd call an old school coach. You know, he's got a lot of new philosophies about him. I mean, how the Nuggets have transformed, you know, their offense, a lot of his thinking, like, it's not like he's stuck in 1970.
He's a very good coach, man.
And
Michael Malone's a very good coach.
Yeah, he is a great coach. He is very good. But I just think, like, after having him in this seat for 10 years and the direction this team has gone, I just think that ownership will look in a completely opposite direction. I think they'll look for somebody who's more like David Adelman.
Yeah, and honestly, I think David Adelman will have a shot at this. That is the Kroenke way to just next man up it. You know, we groomed this guy to be ready for when this happens.
And
revolving shark teeth.
And most importantly, don't have to pay him a lot.
Yeah,
that's really the thing. That's why it's a revolving shark tooth.
Didn't Josh Kroenke use revolving shark teeth? Did he use that at his
He
might
So this is them going out the front door, right?
Well, yeah, kicked him out right out.
Yeah, they opened the front door and said,
they went out the front door.
You need to leave now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Adelman will get a look, not just because he's going to get this look, but because he's a guy they know and because he probably wouldn't cost a lot. And unfortunately, I think you have to factor that into any decision that ownership makes here with either of these two open positions. I do wonder, like everyone else, about Taylor Jenkins right off the bat. I mean, that's a guy who I think had some success in playing a lot of young guys, developing some young talent, opening up a rotation. Now that whole conversation may be moot now anyway, depending on who comes in and makes these decisions going forward. But yeah, I mean, a guy who can put together a defensive game plan and a guy who can kind of, you know, player development, extract more from the youth, open up the rotation. You know, that's just one obvious thought given that he's available.
Yeah.
Michael Malone should coach the Magic.
The Orlando Magic? Jamal Mosley has a Malone in him, though.
That's the type of franchise that needs a Michael Malone. That's now climbing young players, needs to find their base.
He honestly gave this to the Nuggets. The Nuggets were cool in part because Michael Malone, he gave them.
He was the voice.
He has a tattoo on his arm of Maxi Minor.
He has a Maxi Minor tattoo
for the rest of his life.
For the
But I
rest of his
honestly,
life.
like, I'm so grateful for Michael Malone. I mean this sincerely because
Seriously.
I'm sharing stories now about content because I think that most people are going to side with Malone and against Booth in this thing. And I'm just trying to provide context that both guys were crazy in how they handled this. Like, we talk about the story. It's just like, to me, when I would hear a different story every month, and I would just be like, what the hell, man?
Wait,
Like,
these guys haven't talked for weeks?
Yeah,
like,
like-
how can you...
or arguments and this and that in front of people, or doing sabotaging on each side of the equation, trying to sabotage the other. Like, it's crazy. But I just want to make it clear that I think Michael Malone is a really good coach. I think the odds of the Nuggets finding a coach who is not as good as him are very high, because that's just most coaches. And he provides something to the city that, to your point, on a baseline level, he made the Nuggets cool and gave them an identity when they could have very easily had a different one. And he gave them this identity that was cool and tough, and he called out the Lakers, which nobody ever had done before.
Like
and he
Lakers
did
fans
it
in
in
the
real
chat,
time.
like going like, "Who's your daddy?" Like, yo, we still love that stuff.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And the answer is we are until
yeah.
proven
Yeah,
otherwise.
we're still your daddy.
Until proven otherwise.
But Malone gave them that, right? Not just Jokic gave them that series win, and Murray and all the players. They should all get credit. But Malone gave Nuggets fans and you talk your shit.
And you talk your shit
And you
during
hate-
it. After
Oh,
game
yeah.
one,
We're
I
better
wonder if
than
they're going to
these
play
guys.
D'Lo. That guy sucks.
My team is
Be really
better
earnest
than that
question.
team. Your favorite team is better than their team. Like, embrace it. That was... Honestly, I think all of that played into what makes him a legend in this organization, and like what people will remember 20 years from now.
I mean, yeah, he left an indelible mark, not only from the fact what you guys are saying culturally, but like he is the winningest coach in Denver Nuggets history. Like and he won the only title that the Denver Nuggets have ever experienced.
And then was an absolute legend in the parade, which I know sounds dumb, but it's not. It's like he made that moment as
agree.
punchable
It
as
mattered.
punchy as it was.
And more than that, like when the Denver Nuggets weren't anything, nothing, like jokes, we're the only ones paying attention. Michael Malone comes out with take that L on the way out. Like
that was the true beginning emotionally of this era. That was the, you know what, we're not here for just a good time.
No. Or apparently a long time.
Oh, 10 years is a super long time. No, you're wrong. 10 years is in the 98th percentile of coaches.
He's
It's a
the
joke.
third
I
longest tenured coach in the NBA.
No, but truthfully,
Or
like
was.
it like Michael Malone like what he brought to the Nuggets was pride and grit.
Yep.
And like the Nuggets were just kind of a doormat to the largest degree. Like no one would even consider them, and like just a perennial punching bag. Like right now you make fun of the Magic, but that was like the Nuggets. Like they're just like whatever the dumbest team you can think of, you would say the Denver Nuggets, and nobody ever punched back. We just kind of were like, oh, I hope Carmelo Anthony mentions us when he. But Michael Malone like gave us that New York FU grit and vibe, and I will forever, ever be grateful to him for what he did. I hate how this ended. I mean, I think that I'm going to go into a period of grief now, because I just really, really respect the man, and I really, really have always appreciated the way that he's gone about his business. But I mean, I think it's, it clearly got to a point where whatever was happening with the front office and him spilled out into the locker room and was actually affecting the team and the players' perception of him, the players' perception of Booth, and it just became untenable. I hate it, and it's sad.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really important just to like give the ode to Michael Malone like we have been, because he is the best coach in Denver Nuggets history.
Yep.
And
one of the best coaches in Denver sports history.
And
Iconic.
he's likely going to stay the best coach in Denver Nuggets history for the rest of my lifetime, probably.
Winningest for sure.
Yeah, winningest for sure.
He's Mount Rushmore, guaranteed.
Yeah.
He's
and
a Mount
I mean,
Rushmore
he
coach.
like took over this team 10 years ago when they were nothing, absolutely nothing. A year and a little into that, he was like, "Oh, I'm going to build around Nikola Jokic."
Yeah.
That took some guts. Absolutely. That was a high, ceiling, low floor play. He could have played it safer than that, but he didn't. And we know what's happened since. But I mean, along the way, man, he's built the culture here in Denver.
Yeah.
There have been other guys that have contributed to it as well. But I mean, he's done it day to day. He's been there every step of the way. He's had his guys back at every turn.
Yep.
He's had Jamal Murray's back early on in the playoffs when Jamal was playing really bad. He stuck with them. He's had Yokes back forever. He's always had his guys' backs. People respect him for that, and they should. And he stuck to his beliefs, and I can't blame him for that, actually, in a way. But he put his heart and soul into this organization. He really did. And the Nuggets are not where they are right now if it wasn't for him.
And he was a character. There are some good coaches that are just so boring. They're almost all right. We are now heading to overtime. So if you guys are watching this on our fast channel, head over to overtime. We're going to go long on today. We're not going short today. We even got super chats to get to.
I've canceled all my meetings.
Yeah, cancel them all, baby.
Cancel them all.
Huh? What did Faku say?
Weighing in.
Emoji-based.
Mind blown emoji.
There you go.
Yeah.
But I just want to finish this thought on Malone. He's a character, and I know that doesn't sound like much, but it's true, man. We'll remember him as a personality, as a Denver sports personality, as much as a coach, because he really was that. He was hilarious. He had a million funny lines. I teased him one time about whether or not he practices his lines when he's walking up to the podium, and he's like, I don't, man. That's off the top of the head. And I believe him. He's just that guy who had a quick zinger that he could pull up, and he's just an all-time Denver Nuggets character and Denver sports character, and it does suck that whether it's right or wrong move going forward, I just will have nothing but fond memories when the dust settles. I'll just be like, yeah, that was awesome.
That's what most people will remember.
Yeah,
not the rotations, but the title and talking smack and the
title is so big, man.
Yeah.
Going forward, so I do think the Nuggets will have a pick of who they want to coach their team. I can't imagine any young coach or any smart coach out there wouldn't be making the call and saying, I know what to do. Listen to me. I know what to do. It's not that Yoke's the best player in the world. It's that he's the best player to coach in the world. He's not like, all right, he's a great player, but I just don't know if he's going to play a lot or he's going to not like the system. Yoke's like, oh my God, you give me that. I know exactly what to do. And so, and I would say the same thing of the front office. It's not beautiful right now, the cap sheet, but it's not crazy. The one thing I'll say is, I think new owner syndrome is real. I think new GM syndrome is real too.
Well, here's the thing about that is whatever GM comes here, unless it's somebody like Tommy Balchettis who gets elevated, if a new GM comes in here, they don't have any loyalty to anybody on the roster. Everybody, I would say, except for Nikola Jokic, is up for grabs. There's no loyalty. There's no, this guy's done so much for us.
And even the opposite, sometimes you want to come in and make a big splash right away. Like, I want to bring in my guys or guys that I like.
For sure.
So I think if Denver doesn't win a title this year, which doesn't feel that likely, but that this summer would be a very big one. One with like, oh my God, the roster is completely different.
Stay tuned.
Yep. Should be a crazy
Dude,
summer.
it's going to be insane. What if they just win the title?
Also on the table, man.
I know, dude. That's the craziest
They
thing.
win the title with like nobody working in the front office.
If they make the Western Conference Finals or the Finals, Jokic is the GOAT. I'm sorry, but do they need to they need to hire a GM first, right?
You would think, although it doesn't always work that way. We have been in this territory before where it's just Kroenke hired the coach and then the GM.
That's true.
I want to make the first call.
That's kind of like what led us to this. Like he
I
hired
know.
Tim
Like
Connolly.
right now, there's not.
No, he
any
hired Brian
decisions
Shaw, I believe, first.
Well, but he hired Tim Connolly, who then hired Michael Malone. I mean, he got Brian Shaw, but I'm saying like
Tim Connolly hired Brian Shaw.
But it was like a week into his It was like immediate.
But my larger point is that you should hire the GM first, so that the GM hires the coach, who then inherently is in lockstep with his vision. And we don't have this kind of thing again. You have to bring in not one but two. I mean, it kind of makes sense that if you're going to fire one, you fire both, and you just say, okay, we're starting over with a brand new brain trust, a brand new philosophical approach. We're going to make sure that everybody is on board from the jump, from the get. We're not like coming in and being like, oh, I thought you preferred or whatever.
We're on the same page, and we know that.
Yeah, dude, it is a new chapter. It is a new chapter. I think it's a new book.
Vogt, just give me I have to say, are you optimistic about the remaining part of the year? Sounds dumb, but we were operating from zero optimism.
Yeah.
So is it up at all? Like, is there any part of you that goes, you know what? I don't know, man.
I mean, look, obviously I held out. I had a lot of faith in the core, just what the players, those players have done together and what you can do with Jokic. I spent all year thinking it's not quite as bad as it feels. They lost that Pacers game, guys, and they lost me too. Even I was like, okay, this is not happening. From that perspective, sure. Maybe this will inspire guys to play for each other again, right? Just play with some urgency, recognize that no one's safe, that they owe this to Jokic. To me, though, this is more about going forward. To me, this is more about it's a new day. the door is wide open for a new regime to come in and instill whatever philosophy direction they want to instill. So I think way more about what goes on after this run, to be honest. I don't have much faith that they're gonna rally around this and win a championship. But it'd be awesome. But it's, guys, even we have only covered one coach, really, for the most part. This is like, things are about to change here in Denver, man, and the roster's probably gonna change too. So it just feels like everything is on the table in a way that it hasn't been since I got here.
I know we've actually really enjoyed a era of stability that you don't generally get. Like,
no, you don't.
We've sort of like been lulled ourselves into the idea that just it is, that's the institution. We're going to react with what comes from that. But man, there's nothing assured in sports. And for example, that people are screaming about Leeds almost scoring during the most trying moments of the Denver Nuggets history.
It's really tough, man.
It really is. It's a tough
Do I
backdrop
hate
for us.
Leeds? I don't know anything about them.
I think I hate them right now.
Can we talk about just Sorry,
I just want to get the optimism take now from you two, and then take me where you want to go. But
yeah, I mean, I feel like to what D-Line said earlier, this is a really tough time to fire Michael Malone based on everything he's done for you. Like, he's kind of being done dirty here, and
I agree.
It really sucks for him. I mean, it just sucks in general because he's such an integral part of this era. But, and here's the but, you're doing it now to try to save this season.
Yep.
And I do think there is a very small percentage chance that it can be saved.
Agreed.
Because you do have Nikola Jokic.
And Jamal Murray.
And you do have a championship core.
You might have Jamal Murray.
And maybe this is a shot in the arm because, and I've said this a lot, and a lot of people have gotten on me for this. I think the fan base thought this roster and the core of this roster was more in Michael Malone's corner than they actually were. I think they respected him.
Agreed.
I think they really liked him. But it had an expiration date, and I think just the relationship there was not as tight-knit as a lot of people thought it was. And I think a lot of the things Michael Malone has said and how he was in his guy's corner, I think that overshadowed a lot of it and just buttered it up a little bit. But I think that those relationships had been falling out, and I just think you can take this season as a prime example. Like, whatever his message was, it did not connect with this team all season. All season, this team has been dysfunctional in terms of what Michael Malone is saying and what's happening on the court. Like, there is no excuse for the defense to be as bad as it was all season. That obviously did not connect. And so I just think it had run its course with that regard. And I think there is optimism because there is still a really good team here. There is still somebody who I think is the best player in the world and one of the greatest players of all time here. There is still good role players here. This team has not been as good as the sum of its parts, as we've said time and time again, and that's an issue. So I do have some optimism that this Jokic era can be saved, and ownership looked at it and said, this is what has to be done to save it. And I can believe that.
And quite possibly asked the players this as well. Like, hey, man, if we do this, like, is it worth it? Is there a chance? And you wonder if players are like, listen, man, we can do this. We're better than this. I have optimism as well. I'm not going to sit here. I told I was the most pessimistic coming into the year. I'm still not going to sit here and say that I would pick the Nuggets to come out of the West. Even winning a first round right now, they got to avoid the play-in, fellas. These last 3 games are really important.
And they don't have a head coach right now.
And they do.
Have one.
They have one. I'm saying, and it's different. But I do expect that you are going to see tomorrow night the Nuggets play harder than they have for the last month. I believe that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I believe that the Nuggets always get better as the playoffs go on. This has just been a trait of the Jokic era. I don't think it's Jokic's fault. I think it's other people, but I think that's a trait. And I think the first round is going to be really, really tough no matter who they play. If they get past that, I could see this team galvanizing in a way, because again, the runway's so short, but I could see them galvanizing in a way that gives them new life, new belief. And oh, by the way, how do you scout a team that has a new identity that they know, but you don't?
It's true.
So to me, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm picking the Nuggets, but I do think that there is more reason to hope right now than there was 3 hours ago. As crazy as that is,
crazy.
I just don't think there was any reason to hope before.
Well, I mean, like just to give credence to that. Like, there's no team in the NBA that is coached more by the players on the court than the Denver Nuggets.
Right.
Nikola Jokic is the shadow coach of this team. Like, he is the offense. Like, Michael Malone's greatest coaching move, in my opinion, was just essentially empowering Jokic to be Jokic, something that you cannot ever just assume would happen regardless of the coach. But like, Michael Malone allowed Jokic to be the absolute sun, moon, and stars, the middle of the offense. The ball goes through him every single time. They trust on his ability to read and react. I mean, there's a lot. They run plays, obviously, but most of it is just based on what does Jokic see. He's able to, sort of like direct people to where he wants them to go. So from that standpoint, at least on the offensive end, you don't feel like you're losing much, if anything, by not having a head coach in place. The defense is another question that is a big deal, and that is like more schematically based. That's where I'm like very nervous.
But it can't be worse. My point, because I know Vogt, I saw Vogt kind of, oohing and ahhing when I said this. My take was more that the Nuggets had no hope. Like, I just was there.
They stopped trying.
And it could be worse, but what's worse than zero? You know what I mean?
I'm picking up what you're putting
They stopped trying. It's not like the Nuggets are going to have a different offense and a different defense.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be meaningfully different.
You just can't do that at this point in the season. That's unrealistic. But they can try harder.
Yes.
And that, I think, is the reason for hope.
I hope they try harder, like, for each other, too, right? If you care at all about the guy being your teammate next year, it is very clear that no one is safe right now, right? So, like, if you're Michael Porter Jr. and you love Aaron Gordon and vice versa, go play defense for each other. For each other now. Because if you don't, it's not just you, but it's them too, right? And so, like, sometimes this is just how it ends, but I hope it inspires a little bit of... I wrote that piece, and I think people think I'm saying that as just some, like, play for each other. Like, there's basketball analysis in there. Like, everyone has a role. Yeah. And they stopped doing it for each other completely. Yeah. So I do hope that they sense the urgency. But I mean, it's really tough to enter the playoffs with this big of a change this late in the season and feel confident. It also makes me worried about Jamal Murray's injury, man. It really does.
I know.
Like this is not like secret reporting. This is just me talking on the emergency pod. Like to me, it looks like, is Murray going to come back? No. All right. This thing's toast. What are we waiting for? So I'm curious about that as well.
I feel every emotion right now. You had another topic you wanted to go into?
I just think we should talk about like one of the biggest failings and reasons that this has happened, and it's that Calvin Booth's roster building philosophy just did not work.
Yeah, and, I mean, how so though?
I mean, because that's what a lot of people and a lot of listeners and watchers of this show are going to say, like, the reason the Nuggets are where they're at right now is because like Calvin Booth had this plan. And it just didn't work in terms of filling out the roster around.
To me, you could very easily say, because here's where I'm going to push back on the Cal narrative. The real reason the Nuggets are in the spot they are is because Michael Porter Jr. has a max contract. It's hard to build your roster when you have 3 max contracts, and to a lesser extent Jamal Murray, but also there. When you have 3 max contracts, 2 of which are not even close to being all-stars. So every other move is these margin moves, and then the other part I'd push back on is Calvin Booth rather crudely came out and said when they made his initial Project Dynasty plan was, we're probably not going to follow up this with a championship this year, but we can set the foundation for later.
Right.
But that year never happened. The foundation was never set. You can at least argue that.
And it didn't work for a lot of reasons, but one, because the coach wasn't on the same page. And it was never going to work if the coach wasn't on the same page. And the fact that like Cal didn't realize that was never going to change, that was probably a strike against him. It just wasn't going to work if those two weren't aligned. But like Cal, I think, thought about this plan way more than people actually thought. Like, I think he put more time and just brainstorming into this than like people think in terms of who we're going to draft, who we're going to have, what types of players are going to be put around Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter, Aaron Gordon, and why that can be successful.
Yeah.
And obviously it didn't work, but it was a really risky plan because you needed everything to go right. It was way riskier than just saying, oh, let's just get a bunch of minimum contract veterans like a lot of other teams have done. Because if you go that route, you can't get mad at him for going the young guys route, even if it doesn't work. And that plan, by the way, has proven not to work in places like Phoenix, Milwaukee. So he had this whole elaborate plan because he didn't want the Nuggets to end up like a Phoenix or a Milwaukee. Right. And I respect that, but it obviously didn't work, and it wasn't going to work based on who the coach was and how there was no alignment there. But I think that, was the thinking. I don't want to end up like a Milwaukee.
Right. Yep. Milwaukee was the blueprint I think they were afraid of. And here's the thing I will say is, for as much as I can see that perspective, where I blame Cal is, for a guy that tries to take all variables, he didn't see the biggest one, which was, does this coach want to follow my plan? Right. And the answer was such an obvious no that you can't, in my opinion, sit there 2 years later and say, well, if only he would have done this. It's like, well, he was never going to do that.
It's like, no, I'm just going to not bring back Justin Holiday, so you have to play this guy.
It's like, that's not going to work.
No, I'm just not going to bring Colin Gillespie here because you're going to play Jalen Pickett.
They should make, like, anytime you hire a GM, you should make it illegal for them to watch the movie Moneyball. Where you just go in and be like, this coach is a moron. I'm gonna. It's crazy, but yeah, like the thought that you can just do it all yourself and like not have coach buy-in.
But if he went the veteran route, he might still have a job here. They might be the exact same situation they are right now, but he might still have a job.
It's true. It's actually true.
The other thing too is,
good point.
He just didn't get all the players right. You know what I mean? Like I have some belief in Pickett.
Hunter Tyson for sure looks like a guy like, come on.
They got Christian Brown right.
Yeah.
And they were confident in that. But yeah, like Hunter Tyson, Julian Strother, and I think Julian could end up being a good NBA player for sure.
But the 2-year timeline feels like that was never going to happen.
It didn't happen as fast as it needed to.
It was also like, it's probably not going to happen with these guys. And hey, look, I was sitting here praising Tim. Some of this goes back to Tim as well, who locked them into a certain type of cap sheet. And a lot of this goes back to Tim as well.
Totally.
But I also just think like Calvin laid out his philosophy and I appreciated that it was easy to follow. But then I think he didn't get necessarily all the draft picks right. Hard to do, admittedly. And then I think this culture stuff that we talked about really mattered. So from there, it was almost like, even if one of those two guys could play, like I just think it was really clear that this guy probably couldn't lead this organization going forward. I'm sympathetic to Malone. I'm sympathetic to Malone because I don't hate the idea that in a year after a title with a team that was capable of winning a franchise record wins, he was thinking, no, I actually would rather play Justin Holiday. No, I actually would rather win again.
I will say this, I think that there's going to be more player. We'll find out here in these final 3 games. We'll see how the team responds. Yeah, but I anticipate that there will be a notice vibes increase over these coming games. And if there is, I think it would tell you something about. Because as much as I agree with you about all these things, if the players don't feel that way, then it's like
he lost the locker room.
Here's the largest point possible is that Calvin Booth concocted a philosophy and plan that's based off of drafting young players and bringing them up and having a whole system where you're developing players with a coach that doesn't play rookies. Yeah. Like just fundamentally never plays rookies. Like you right at the beginning, that should tell you like, that's not going to work with the setup that I have here. I have a guy that is a veterans coach that has been an NBA lifer. He's not going to just all of a sudden be like, all right, let's let the kids, let's let them mess around in there with Nikola Jokic being, again, like approaching his prime, turning in one of the greatest seasons of all time. And like, we're worried about developing Julian Strother and we're worried about, can we make sure that the bench is going to come together with all of these young players that keep making mistakes instead of being like, all right, like who are the types of players that we need to get? We are now such an attractive destination because of Nikola Jokic. We can find these good veterans that will take less because they want to ring chase. And just like philosophically, now that you take a step back, you're like, of course, that wasn't gonna work. Yeah.
We'll continue to dissect it from all angles, and we'll see what happens coming up. But fascinating. If nothing, we just step back emotionally from it now. Me personally, I feel like the season got more interesting. I was like dreading it. I was kind of walking into a playoffs that I kind of knew how it was going to go, either bad or horrible.
I'm straight up numb.
You're straight up numb? But you two over here, this couch over here seems more angry, I feel.
Yeah, this is the anger couch. We've been...
Vogt, is there any excitement now just to see? Yeah. I'm saying optimistic excitement, just like...
No, yeah, dude. The door is wide open in a way it hasn't been. Like, that's really... It actually is fascinating.
It is fascinating.
And with the way things were going, exciting by default insofar as it's not maybe quite as miserable.
It felt like we were walking off a cliff.
Thank you.
We were walking the plank.
Great Leeds. Way to go, Leeds.
We were walking the plank, and we were like 3/4 of the way there.
Oh, they're offside.
And now
offside.
it just feels like we step back, and we have more runway.
Yeah.
We're not quite about to walk off the plank yet.
No, I mean, like, it is most assuredly more interesting. Do I feel good that there's this level of organizational dysfunction 3 games for the playoffs? I do not.
I'll tell you. Can I tell you who's really on the clock right now in a fascinating way? Is the Cronkies, because you have Jokic in the apex peak of his prime. You better spend some money here.
Or
I don't
what?
care if it's
They'll
Adelman.
get
I don't
fired?
care if it's Balchetis. I don't care what you do.
all-
This cannot be a cheap whatever move. If they go with something that just seems cheap and doesn't work out, it would be an unforgivable offense. They have to get this next part right.
I think the cheapest thing they did was letting Tim Connolly walk without really putting together a competitive offer. And
I don't think it was cheap though. I think it was like personal in
Yeah.
a dumb way. It's equally as dumb, but
maybe a nice overlap of both.
yeah, probably both.
Probably a nice overlap of both. And so to me, I do think ownership wears a lot of this too. I really think they do. And obviously, I'm sure Booth really believed in moving on with Christian. I think that was a convenient agenda overlap with ownership not paying KCP as well. It's time, whoever they bring in next has to be paid well, and not as a default replacement, right? As whoever is next up to make sure Jokic and co get this done. And I do think it starts with ownership.
Yeah, dude, you're on the clock. You might get fired, Cronkies.
Do we have any candidates that we want to throw out there?
I'm
Taylor
going to throw out a
Jenkins
couple.
the
Taylor
most.
Jenkins, Brad Stevens, right now currently in a front office role with his Celtics.
With new ownership,
With new
coming
ownership,
in, probably
that's-
needs to cut the bill a little bit.
I'll just go to the chase. Tim Conley. Who? Tim Conley would be a very
For coach
Hey,
or
did
GM? Or
you were saying they
for
need
point
better
guard?
vibes.
There is an opt out on that deal.
You know who?
if Tim Connolly brought back,
There is
like,
an opt out.
we would have a parade starting at the airport, ending at Ball
Yeah,
Arena.
I'm telling you, he's very close to Jokic. This is not a crazy
No,
thing.
it's
Like
not.
Jokic has a very personal relationship with Tim Conley that was, in my opinion, not accounted for when they said we'll go out the side door. Then
If you want to know,
we're
like,
offended.
yeah, like, and this is not like revisionist history. You can go and watch our reaction when Tim Connolly left. I went back and watched it. I don't think I've ever been angrier online than during that. I was so incredibly angry.
Game
that,
7 collapse last year.
No, I wasn't angry. I was sad. But like there was a true attention to vibes, as silly as it sounds. I mean, really, like a lot of this comes back down to it. Like all the tacticians, all of the strategy, all of the plays. I mean, like vibes are something that cannot be ignored, especially when you're working with people day after day after day. Does the message get lost? Is there a message at all? What are we doing here? Sometimes just like having the assurance of knowing that the guys working around you have your best interest in mind all the time, like and want to make things good, not only for you, but for everybody involved. Not like, and it seems very clear that we had, at least one, if not two guys involved that were very interested in making sure that things were good for them, as opposed to the larger organization. I hate this timing. I love Michael Malone. I'm really bummed about how this has turned out. And in fact, I think as the years echo on, it's going to be something that we look back on as a great tragedy, the way it took place, unless immediate success follows. But, I just, take this as all the kids out there, take note of this. Like there's learnings in here to just how to conduct yourself in a professional environment and just in life in general, is that you don't know everything.
Yeah.
Nobody knows everything. Other perspectives are important, and you have to sort of find out and make the best of the situation where you're at, get in where you fit in. I hate how this ended, but
Yeah.
with Yoke, all things are possible. Never forget
I'm
that.
cool with Tim coming back as long as he doesn't immediately trade into the draft to draft a 6-foot point guard.
He's like, and I'm bringing Bones with me. Fuck off,
Just
everyone.
no more undersized point guards, and then Tim can come back.
Man, I cannot believe it. It's just what a crazy day. Kale, did anybody super chat this show?
Just a couple. Yeah.
What do we got?
There's 75 right now.
Let's start
my
mowing
God.
through them, man, because this is
Okay.
another 20 minutes of the show, and I haven't eaten today. Starting to get grouchy.
Oh, God. Another emergency. Get out of my hamburger.
All right, here we go. See how many are positive, Eric. Kingslayer, sir. How sure are we that they won't consider trading Jokic? NBA teams have done weirder shit.
They traded Luka. I would tell you you're the stupidest person on earth, but they did trade Luka, so
they're not trading Jokic.
They're not.
I mean, what you have to, and I don't think Jokic's going to like ask out or any of that stuff. But
this is the day for pure mania hysteria. Live in that thought if it helps you.
Here, let me just tell you this one thing. We talk about new GM syndrome. Somebody comes in here, and I just do not be surprised if Nuggets flame out this year. Do not be surprised if they bring in somebody with the idea of we have to get a KD or a Giannis or a bit like you don't bring in the team builder. You bring in the guy that gets the deals done.
And the guy that gets the job. I mean, if I was trying to get this job, I would say the first thing I would say in a job interview is that Nikola Jokic does not play with another All-Star. How did you guys let that happen? I will get another All-Star in here day one.
Day one.
And I'm going to present you a list of the potential guys I can get.
I want Andre Iguodala. All right, Ryan B. Lost the locker room. Surprised it was now, but not shocked at all. That I agree with.
Right.
I do
Like
think,
this was going to happen.
That's our consensus, I think.
His tone changed a lot a couple months ago, Malone, in the pressers. Sounded less like he was pleading with his guys and more like just telling us, you know?
He's like,
maybe.
He's like, this sucks,
They've
right?
stopped listening.
Michael Malone
They
had a
stopped
quote
listening.
the other night where he said his guys don't watch film.
Yeah.
His guys don't watch film. I wonder if that was the final straw, because how can you look at that and say, all right, this guy's going to coach our team? You know, like how can you look at that quote and say, all right, we're just going to roll with this guy as our coach?
Yeah.
That
I think
it's
is
done
fair.
at that point.
That I think is fair. The timing is, but you know what? I get it. I get what you're saying there. The boys' dad, if Jamal is to stay, 2-man game could be worth it. Must arrive next season ready to play. No more playing into game shape while making teammates carry more than their share of the load and then getting injured.
This actually could be part of it, is that I think Malone really likes Jamal Murray and probably allowed him more tolerance than he probably should have.
I think Jamal ranks near the top of the list of Malone defenders amongst the staff, amongst the players.
For sure. Yeah, no, and it's like
He could do whatever he wanted.
I
mean,
yeah, with the news that Jamal Murray might be out because of the hamstring, like I just was like, I don't know if I can defend this guy anymore. And like people were like, what are you talking about? He's hurt. It's like that's the way he's hurt. And we keep seeing this movie over and over and over. Like, clearly, not enough people are holding him accountable enough.
Pablo Alfaro, I really feel sad about all of this. Whether you liked Malone/Booth, the timing seems off. Debatable, ? But more than anything, this means whatever project we were building for the last few years, it failed and it just hit hard.
Yep. All true.
Terrence Hall, can we get a no class, no balls shirt?
Man, another great one.
If you'll walk around wearing no class, no balls on a t-shirt, I'll make it.
Wilson the Ghost, making this move after a first round bounce makes sense. Doing it now tells me maybe something toxic was going on behind
Hopefully
the
we
scenes.
just told you what it was.
Yeah, it tells you that they don't want to get bounced in the first round.
They believe they don't necessarily have to be.
They have Nikola Jokic. All things are possible.
God, I'm so excited for tomorrow night's game. Well, anything is possible tomorrow night.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Nuggets lose by 50 and it's just like, okay, whatever.
We're
Nuggets
like-
win by 40.
we're
It's
like-
all on the table tomorrow.
I know. We're like, Rapid Man is the new starting point guard, huh?
Who's going to play? Like, think about that question. Just
Totally.
who plays tomorrow night?
We're going to find out.
We're gonna find out, man.
Who David Adelman has been behind the scenes wishing would be the lineup.
Zeke Naji at center,
Yeah, he's just puts him in not only the five,
the
the
same
starting
exact
five.
rotation.
Chunk Dickwell's burner.
Finally.
Sad day for sure. 20 spot from Chunk Dickwell's
Thank you.
burner. Thank you. Shout out to Malone, Jokic de facto coach and GM. Don't hate it. This reminds me when I got fired from the bank. Someone asked me to check their balance, so I pushed them over.
Wow. Good stuff.
Awesome.
Good
Brian
stuff.
Solo, thank you for Tim Connolly. Love Minnesota. The Yak 2300. This will kill the Denver Nuggets if they did not have Jokic's blessing to do this.
There's no way they didn't. There's no way that Josh Kroenke did not talk.
Can you
to
imagine
Nikola
Jokic is like, not only do you not have my blessing, don't do it. And they're
They're
like,
like,
yeah,
oh,
we're going to do it anyway.
We're the Kroenkes. Whatever.
I will tell you that I've heard that they have consulted Jokic on things like this before, and
Yeah.
he's reluctant to give too firm of an answer, that he kind of
course.
wants. But there have been a few that I think he stepped in on, and I mean, who knows? I don't even want to speculate about
Yeah,
what
we
Jokic
don't
feels
know.
about
We
this
don't
because
know
I
this
do not know.
This will, okay, Kristoff.
Surely Jokic just tweeted about it. Let's look.
Jokic should become a player coach and win first MVP and coach of the year the same year in 26.
Let's go.
Pin it to my bingo card.
Yes. The bingo cards are wow. Everyone's tearing up their bingo cards today.
Ulysses Ventura, is KD the Nuggets Dame next year? Hopefully it's
Yes.
Giannis, not KD. Feels like Booth is the reason Malone was fired. What options did they give
Bro, they
Malone?
cannot get KD. That you can't do it.
I can't. We're taking weird turns, man.
You cannot
Giannis?
get KD.
Giannis?
Yes, you can get Giannis. You cannot get KD.
Vladislav, is it linked to the availability of Taylor Jenkins?
Could be. I mean, it's entirely because Taylor Jenkins, if he, on the open market, probably goes during the playoffs, and it is possible. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see.
Travia, the release for Malone should have been amicable on both sides / post. Some bull other teams pull, not the Nuggets. The 1-2-3 family culture is dead.
I mean, this is how it goes, though. I will say there's.
And what's sad about it is, this has been like a special era because it started with Jokic and Murray and Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter, and Michael Malone. And we've had a core of this team that everybody in this entire city and fan base has connected with. And that core has stayed together, and that is so rare.
and special.
And so
man.
that's why this is not a normal firing.
Right.
It is, but to us who have been following this team since the beginning and talking about this team and living and breathing with this team, it is emotional because these are the guys we know and they've grown up together.
Yeah,
they
man.
won a championship to get together. And that just doesn't happen
No.
in the NBA today. What the Nuggets had was rare. And I was hoping that it was always going to be these guys.
It should be emotional. Like, again, like, why pay attention to this? Who
Yeah,
cares about
no.
any of this? Like, this, we're talking about, like, sports, generally speaking, are just arbitrary act. Like, throwing a ball through a hoop. Who cares? Like, whatever. If you look at it from 10 million miles away, it means nothing. It's like, coming upon, like, the Amazon ruins. And it's like, they had a ball. They had to hit with their bed. And imagine, like, them being like, you fired Tech Tolan. He was the best coach or whatever. And it's like kills them. And we just look at the sport itself. It doesn't even make any sense. We put emotion into this, and it's about believing in something larger, and it's about following a story, and it's about humans overcoming something and coming together. And it's like none of it matters unless we decide it matters. And we've all decided it matters, so it does.
I am glad they got a title together. I am really glad they got a title together. But it does feel like we talked forever. There's when you're a young adult, life is ahead of you. And as a young organization with Jokic, everything was ahead of them and how fun it was and hope this group stays together. Eventually there will come a day where reality, right, asks some harsher choices of you. And that's where the Nuggets are now. Like the young, hope this core stays together. It's a family. That stuff's over now. It's all over now.
Yep.
And whatever the next timeline is,
sad,
it will only be about getting Jokic the next title, which is where they should be. But it's just an acknowledgement that like, hey, almost a decade has passed, guys, of all of us doing this together. And whatever it will be going forward, it will certainly be something different. Yvonne MBG 62. Next move, Nuggets will hire Nico Harrison and he will trade Jokic to the Lakers for Alex Len and a 2032 second round pick.
Oh, sick. That'll be awesome.
P.S. Bring back Tim Connolly. Yvonne MBG 62. This means Murray and Porter are on the move next year.
Could be.
Could be, man. Absolutely. David, worst part is what this says of Jamal's health. I have the same thought.
I think the worst part is that they fired the coach and the GM.
What do you mean? What it says about his health? As if they just think it's not going to come back?
That was my first thought as well. If you're told that Murray it's not happening this year, the whole thing is
Somebody
just,
texted me a conspiracy that they're worried Yoke's going to carry him to a championship. And they'd be stuck with it. So they're
you
like,
imagine?
get it out the way so
They're
they
like,
don't get credit.
we're so sick of difficult championships. We want easy ones.
Well, no, they still think it could happen, but they wanted to make the move even if it did happen.
But I'm saying, like, think of the concept of, like, you didn't win the championship the way you wanted.
Christoph, Project Bullshit is finished,
Whoa!
but somehow worse.
No, it's
Ribbit.
actually, it's still in play.
I mean, Project Bullshit. is
Until the players are gone, Project Bullshit is still in play.
Back up to Diz. Oh, thank you. Diz, Grizzlies Nuggets playing game going to be so fire. No pun intended.
It is. It really is.
Pun intended, though.
Yoban Singh, man, what the fuck? I just woke up and saw Shams post our season is done, and I'm going to the game in Sacramento to watch Joker. Vibes are down.
Vibes might be up. Vibes might be up, or I can't wait to find out.
Dude, what if they're just incredible?
That's what I'm saying.
Corey Runge, he will replace Pop, and he and Wemby will haunt us.
I
That's
have thought
very
about
possible.
that before.
That is possible. I doubt it, though.
Except for I have thoughts on Wemby, but you're right.
We haven't heard any of those thoughts yet. Denver
Your thoughts on
Thugget.
Tatum you'd like to share?
Well, he's our coworker, I believe. James, Denver Thugget, make Jokic the interim coach. Not kidding.
I mean, it's kind of
He's
effectively
been
what
the
will
interim
happen.
coach
So
the whole
yeah,
time.
RMK, I never hated Malone. They did him wrong. I still had a lot of faith we could pull this off. It's business, but it's business, and a lot of people are scared. Got to stay together. Serbia too, till death do us part.
I love that.
Yvonne, MBG, 62. Well, guys, let's hope the project bullshit is gone alongside the booth. Coaches Vogel, Mike Brown, GM,
No,
Tim
Vogel?
Connolly, or Myers.
Oh my God, dude.
History Channel 5280 with a 20 spot. Feels necessary but premature and disrespectful. Can't imagine Adelman getting players to play harder than Malone did. Maybe this gives the players a nobody safe jolt. If not, our boys are getting some rest this offseason.
Is there any way we can get Doc Rivers? You know?
Oh my God. History Channel 50. Doug Rivers is like, I don't want this job. Fine, I'll do it. Fine.
Did he Del Negro?
Oh my God, dude.
History Channel 5280. $5 says we see Jokic drop a play next game. William Mitchell, 2 timeline plans stink. It takes the harmony an organization possibly
The
has.
Nuggets did not have a 2 timeline plan, though. That's what people say that they miss. It was not a 2 timeline plan.
Yeah, there wasn't
the
like
core
the-
was always Yoke, Murray, Mike, AG.
They
That
weren't looking
core
for
was
the,
not changing.
Yeah, they weren't looking for the young guys to
Yeah.
take over as the new. It's just they thought that they could surround them with young, vibrant, defensively
Yeah.
minded players,
And they were wrong.
And they were wrong.
Yep.
The only way to course correct is breaking up one of the bigger contracts. That very well may be the case. Jose Aviles, the coaching trend in the NBA, win a championship, then get fired 2 years
It's not the
later.
trend.
really
It's
is.
it's an
It's-
absolute truth.
It's what happens.
Noah Linden, I'll really miss Malone. It's not his fault this season ended in disaster. It's not his fault we don't have Jeff Green, Bruce
Might be.
Brown, or
Well-
KCP anymore.
I mean, Jeff Green, guys, what are we doing?
Bruce
here?
Brown, Bruce Brown was unattainable.
Yeah,
too.
Bruce Brown. But, you know, Zion Beg.
Zane Beg.
Zayn Beg, thank you. What's the saddest Post Malone song?
Oh no! Every song is now technically Post Malone.
Nice.
Thanks.
DF, what are the odds Yoke was consulted before this move? We have touched on this. He had to have been, as he is the franchise. Bob Myers will be a great GM for us. Bookmark
Why do
this.
people think Bob Myers will be a great GM? I don't
Because
know.
he
Only
built
because-
the Dynasty Warriors.
Because people know
Because
it's
Kevin
pretty
Durant,
obvious.
because he got Kevin Durant who wanted to go there.
But
That's
also
like-
because he's how many GM candidates do you know of? Like,
yeah,
he's
that's
just out
true.
there. They
There's
just
only a
know
handful of
that name,
names.
like-
yeah.
Bob Myers, he has a way of talking that like makes it sound like he is the smartest guy of all time.
Yeah. It's
One
like
time-
Pelinka. We should get Pelinka. He got Luca.
One time when I was
Yeah.
covering a playoff game in LA, I went to the bathroom and it smelled just unfathomable, and I passed it off to Bob Myers. So
Let's go.
I said, good luck in there, man. So I do hope he gets
That's a
stuck
good
on Denver.
story. He'll remember that.
Joker's wild. Good for Kroenke. This needed to happen. The team quit besides Joker, CB, and AG. Yeah, I don't even know. Anything less than 2 seed is unacceptable. Napoleon Clayton, sad about Malone. End of an era. Deserve better. RMK, and we all know Malone walked out of that office red-faced yelling, F you.
Man.
Yeah,
Noah Linden.
he probably yelled that in the office too, which is
It may have
probably-
been why he got front. No, Noah Linden. Also, Jokic will never be a Laker. Sorry, haters.
Yeah, take that.
Yeah.
Cole Bressler, they were staying together for the kids, and the kids have suddenly gone off to college.
No, they were staying together for the kids, but the kids were
Smoking
like-
pot.
Yeah, the kids were like
They were-
like not listening to their parents. They were just like
Listening
hanging
to
out all night.
that rap music.
Yeah, they were playing video games.
sagging their pants.
Lance Wilson, longtime DNVR fan. You guys are killing it today. Happy for you all. I have friends who never listened that jumped on today. Number one Nuggets
Hey,
news.
thanks.
Hell
I'm
yeah,
not
man.
that
Thank
happy for us.
Appreciate that. Hey, if you're watching on
Yeah,
like the
subscribe,
YouTube, like
bro.
all the YouTube streams going forward.
Subscribe,
All
bruh.
of them.
Jordan Bielski, super chat. Jordan Bielski, 5555555 ish. In other news, happy birthday, Sharich. Oh my
yeah.
God, I completely forgot it's Sharich's birthday. They still need time to process what happened, but I will say one thing: this is only the beginning. A storm is coming in the off
So
season.
what if-
I expect more big changes?
What if Dario Saric had his birthday like the movie Big? He made a wish, and he's like, "I wish I got some playing time." And then he woke up. Michael Malone was fired. All of a sudden, he has a path in. I'm sorry, I just made Adam leave.
I'm so offended by that.
That was the worst joke ever told.
By the way, Brett Siegel of Clutch Points tweeting, keep a close eye on Michael Malone being Greg Popovich's successor in
Get
San
lost.
Antonio.
We don't want to talk about that, man.
Justin Teal, I tried to tell you all what happens when you bring Westbrook into the locker room.
It wasn't up to us.
Jordan Bielski, you'd think it was a disconnect with Booth and Malone. Yes, one wanted young players, the other one to win now. Also, who's on the team next year? That's the right question to ask, and I don't think we know for sure. I,
I mean,
think
both
it's
wanted to win now. I just think they had different ideas of how to do it.
I would say every coach and GM in the NBA wants to win now.
Denver Thugget. This will make Thank you. Joker's wild again. I stand with Kroenke on this one. It needed to happen. Malone lost the team and Booth sucks.
I mean, this is a bold move from
It is.
ownership.
It
This
is.
is a really bold. The easier thing would have been to let it play out.
No doubt.
That would have been the easier thing, and I think that's what a lot of organizations would have done.
Dude, what if Sharch literally just like gets into the rotation?
What if Sharch is good?
Yeah, we turns out we're like, oh, we couldn't have done it without him. Dario time.
History Channel
That'd
5280.
be wild.
Imagine Charge stays with the team now, LOL. Jay, no hot takes here. Just sad for Malone going through a crappy firing again, but he takes the ring with him. Thank you guys for the show as always.
Man, I'm
Thanks,
rooting for
Jay.
Malone. I hope he does not coach
He's-
again in the West.
Like,
You hope he doesn't coach
The
Victor
Spurs is
Wembanyama
the-
for the next 10 years?
dude, he's definitely going to the Spurs. There's
I
no
don't.
way
I think
that
the
can't
Spurs
happen.
stay in house though. I think the Spurs are an in-house
Maybe.
org.
I would think, if anything, there you're looking at the fact that Malone has a relationship with Popovich, who might as well have a voice in.
Or if they thought they could lure Jokic to San Antonio. Let's keep it moving. Keep it
You
moving.
know what actually would be another good destination for him? Sacramento.
They do need a coach.
JN, this makes ownership look worse. Kroenke's didn't get greedy after the first title. Booth philosophy was never okay for this organization. It has never actually worked. Malone proved he could win. Shame. Garrett Olson, will there still be a defensive player of the game chain?
Oh, no.
Not if Jokic.
Should we say it?
Not if
Is that
Jokic
the
has
story?
anything to do with it.
Tell him.
That's a funny story.
That Jokic hates the defensive player of the game chain?
You saw it not just from the video.
The fans know.
He thinks it was dumb.
They can see it in how he reacts.
I thought it was cool. But I'm not
I
on
did
the
too,
team.
by the way. I actually didn't care. I felt like that was one that Jokic
And told
could just-
Malone that one time.
Yeah. Joker's wild. Do you think Suns would trade Booker for Murray and MPJ? Throw in a first rounder if we have to.
We have to have somebody to run the point. It's like we need a point guard to make.
Also, man, come on. We can't. Come on. Maybe, but come on.
yeah,
wow.
that's not a 2-man game like that.
Big Honey, I'm really sad about Moach being fired like this. The big changes probably don't stop here. I'm heartbroken that the team has deteriorated like this.
We all are, man. But every death is a rebirth of something
And
else.
we all suffer together, and we're all going to die someday, and it might be sooner than you think.
Brandon Johnson, what is wrong with these playoff teams firing their coach while trying to get a top seed? Stupid. Lee Anderson, Tim Legler as head coach. Pull some strings at him. Kingslayer,
I
sir.
don't think it will be Legler.
That would be a hilarious hiring.
Dude, that would kick ass.
That would suck for me.
No, you never.
Oh, what if I get Michael Malone to replace him?
Yeah, or we just know everything. Tim Legler just tells you everything that's going on in the
that's
front
true.
office all the time.
And we're like, sources are telling us. Kingslayer, sir. Love you guys. Thank you for all the memories during this era. More to come, Kingslayer.
I
More
know
to come.
it's not over. It's not. Well,
Well,
it is.
some of it is though. That's
You're right.
Miroslav Smolinich, $2 or two whatever currency. Thank you so much. Dylan Cantor, Bob Myers or bust. Justin Faminy.
I'll take bust.
Went to the Brucey takeover where Moach was watching the tribute video with him and told y'all I shed a tear because I knew those were special times.
good old
They were.
They were, man.
These are the good old days.
Yeah, you got to enjoy them as they come.
The boy's dad in my youth took the Evelyn Wood speed reading course. Cannot begin to keep up with the chat today.
Here, I'll-
Speedboat, the boys dad.
well, yeah, we have AI to summarize. Let's see. It says users are expressing frustration.
Lee Anderson, if Yoke didn't have such a legendary 2-month run, Malone probably still has a job. He forced the front office hand by dominating and Nuggets still lose.
Could be.
El Professor, I don't mind the timing of this. See it as lights of fire under the team before playoffs. If it was not already happening this offseason, nothing to lose at this point.
Hey, I have a text message from one Ariana Lenarski, a.k.a. The Good Wish.
What did she say?
She says, us, and then the picture of the 9 swords.
Oh, no.
What does that mean?
If you recall,
Oh my God.
it's not that dramatic.
Oh,
It feels dramatic, right? Wasn't that the whole thing of it? It was like, because he's not bleeding, got all the swords in him, and it's like, oh, but once you realize it's not so dramatic.
what did we
you know,
pull for Michael Malone?
I think it was the got fired.
Nothing
card.
left to do but laugh is how she defines it. Nothing left to do but laugh.
Ben
so
Mack.
maybe that's what it is.
Jokic
There's
had to
nothing
have
left to
some
do with
say
that.
in this. Lance Wilson, you'd think the best coaches and GMs would want to come here and get to work with Jokic. Excited to hear what the options will be.
I'm very excited too, man. It's really going to be interesting who they look to.
The Pendula, question for Adam. Do you think
Just
they
for
would
me.
pull a Lukic trade on Jokic now?
No,
A Luka trade.
no,
What
no.
does that even mean?
Guys, that Luka trade has us all shook. That doesn't happen unless a player asks out, except for that one time for a million of the weirdest circumstances.
When you
And by-
hire a Lakers mole.
Yeah,
as your
and then
GM.
on top of that, Luka was like had questions behind the scenes. You live with those questions, but you have Yoke doesn't. Yoke has no questions.
I know. The questions are like, what can we do to make this like
They
this
both like
jolly
Rakia,
malcontent
like-
happen?
Yeah.
History Channel 5280, another $5 says Christian Brown takes full responsibility for both the firings.
Good
That's
on
very
you, Christian.
topical. Very topical. Lee Anderson, Malone to the Nugs, Shanahan to the Broncos.
I hope not, 'cause it took them a decade to find another good coach.
Yeah, I hope not too, but that's the risk, man.
Big
That's the
Namek.
risk.
So do we still think Malone's on the hot seat? Denver Thuggets, shouts to you guys. Needed this emergency pod.
Yeah, man, we all did. I needed it.
Frack, Malone and Booth fighting on vision caused the demise of both.
It's 100% true. Lesson in there.
Carrot Hammer, maybe this is, quote, the text message. Only time will tell. Hashtag all the nuggets are
Malone
good.
sent or Yoke sent a text message this year to Stan.
Corey,
Go time.
Corey Runge, I'm ready to become a Leeds fan. They sound happy.
They do sound very happy.
Things are going
A
great
very
down there.
generous chat here from Oliver Klacic. Jokic makes everyone better, including the coach. Either Nuggets ruin Jokic's legacy or Jokic asks for a trade. This means that ownership is ready to make changes to keep Jokic in Denver. Murray and MPJ will likely go.
I think
mean-
Yoke makes the coach, the front office, us, everybody look better.
Also, I don't want to, those were in Serbian dinars before you talk about how generous it was.
Yeah.
Just say.
Oh, thank you. Bo Coit. Jokic is the most talented, unselfish superstar in league history. Tim Duncan-esque. Great coaches will be lining up to work with him this summer.
Yep.
What you know would be a real plot twist? Greg Popovich comes here.
I know. Well,
Just kidding. I know. He's dealing with a
No,
lot.
the
He's dealing
biggest
with a
plot
lot.
twist was Steve Kerr.
Nash Sweden. Booth deserves to be fired, not Malone. Coach couldn't do much with such a weak roster, overpaid starters except Jokic, and no bench is GM's fault. I don't know, man. Malone had a lot of different benches to work with. You know,
Yeah, it wasn't like
that's
which-
when I can.
which-
This year's bench was terrible. All those other
Please
benches.
specify which bench you're discussing.
I also think it was like the Malone criticism we were most consistent with over the years, that they never built that bench. Bart S. Everyone can say Malone didn't deserve to be fired, but if he lost the locker room, it's not about deserve. It had to be done.
No, it's
I think
true,
that's
but
the decision.
The deserve part is how it happened.
would be the timing of it.
Yeah.
But that I get that part too, and that's why a lot of welcome perspectives today. Super Saintly 29. Difference between ruthless and shameless. Coach deserved respectful send off. Regardless, looking to the new era with cautious intrigue. Lee Anderson, Booth may be gone, but at least Zeke, Hunter, Dario, and Russ are still under contract.
So we'll always have something to remember him by.
Yeah, they have the cap sheet.
Makwetsi Sizwe.
Whoa.
Hi, guys. Reggie Jackson and dumping second-round picks is all Booth's fault. We should be highly critical of his negligence with the team's assets. That is not Malone's fault.
It's true. And
that I agree with.
I would say, yeah, Booth has got to answer for. Oh, he did? He's fired?
Oh, they answer for it. Evan Malakowski, GM and coach gone. Which players could be on the block now? All of them, man.
all of
except
them
for-
not named Jokic.
Well, there's
for
not
15.
currently a block, but
Well, yeah, that's true. In the summer. Jay Buntrock. Would this have happened if Memphis didn't fire their coach?
you think
We don't know.
they're just like, oh, man, that looked fun.
I mean, I can't say for soon, but I would say yes, this happens anyway.
Anyone know, Jay Kerr, anyone know how to get a thank you message to Malone besides X? He's deserving a fan outpouring of
Oh,
support
don't worry.
for all
We
the good
will
years.
absolutely.
Thanks.
I will take it upon myself to make sure that Michael Malone feels the love because I personally love him. I really.
Me too.
He's one of my favorite coaches I've
Yep,
ever
he's an all-timer, man.
been privy to.
Yep. Agreed.
W. Momandi, is there any possibility at all ownership did not clear firing with Jokic? How likely is Murray to be traded since coach was his ride or die?
I think it is possible. I mean, that's the thing. It is possible.
Yeah.
It's also a weird spot to put a player in to ask them, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Because
it
then
is.
it's like, well, am I now responding? If I
Right.
say yes, then it's like,
And
I
if it
got
doesn't
the guy.
go good, it's my fault.
Right.
Right,
That's
right,
a weird
right.
spot to be in.
Justin Calver, RIP Malone and best quotes in the league. Is it too crazy? They just want to give Alderman a good shot before interviewing big names in the summer.
No, I mean, I think Adelman definitely has the respect of the big name players on this team.
I'd be amazed if they stayed with Adam.
Yeah, we'll see. But
You
to
would
go-
be?
Yes.
To go back to the question of like asking Jokic about the fire, if he wants to do it, like that kind of thing. I think how it usually goes is the idea is not originated with the players; it's originated with ownership, the front office, and then you go to a player and you say, "If we fired X, how would you feel?"
Then we just go to TikTok.
There you go.
And Jokic, honestly, we don't know.
I don't know what Jokic
We don't know
said.
what he said.
I don't know.
Could have been anything from to all the way down to I don't make those choices. We don't know. Michael Porter Truther. MPJ is free. Trusted Mike. 20 field goals a game
Jesus
incoming.
Christ.
Cedric Exquisite. No.
That's one guy I think goes really hard tomorrow, by the way.
Cedric?
No, well, yes, but also Mike. I would not be surprised if Mike has a big
Yes.
game. I might take the Mike
Dude,
over
Mike has
tomorrow.
been floating through life lately.
Cedric, exquisite. No Michael Malone, no Booth, no Conkeys. Good job, Vogt and
Cal?
and chat.
And Cedric.
And
Cedric.
Good
Yeah, there
job,
you go.
Cedric. Wilson the Ghost, alternate universe. Russ makes the layup and Booth and Malone keep their jobs.
I don't think it's that simple, but maybe.
Dude, it's not off the
It's
table.
not that. Yeah.
It's not. I'm with D-Line. It's not
But
off the table.
if that happens, it probably just happens after the playoffs. It doesn't
God,
happen
my
right
food is
now.
here.
Bro, yeah. I guess you just be.
I might go eat my. I have to go do
Just
something. right
go,
after that.
Adam.
Eat-
Go
eat your
eat
food, Adam.
And just to be clear, chat. Those people that are with you in times of need, people that would leave you in your time of need, just look sideways at those people.
Over here.
Oh, Adam's still here.
Zach Allen, hot take. Jokic becomes player coach, records his hit song "Love Me Sexy," and leads us to the Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl.
Let's go. What?
Wow. A lot going on there.
Yeah, I know. It's from. Yeah, it's
Oh,
from-
that's right.
Kyle M. Hey, Wind.
Hey, Kyle.
Michael Porter, truther. MPJ would dominate.
Omatsi.
Is that another team with
Oh,
Coach?
that we made fun of my joke about with
I get
Coach
it.
Tenoch Titlan.
Yeah. Carrot Hammer. Was this in the tarot cards? We will have to reconsult the tarot cards.
It seems like it might have been.
And we may have missed it. Thomas, taking a break to check in live. Love you guys. We will survive.
Thanks, Thomas.
Naveen Nevin, in shock. I refreshed my YouTube page and saw this live stream. I'm hanging out here, not going to ESPN.
What's ESPN going to tell you? I'll tell you what. Michael Malone. Like what?
Ali Bishop, have faith in Popeye. He shall lead us.
He's not actually doing that.
That's a name I haven't heard yet.
Amin, I'm very happy this happened. Better things ahead. Drew Abreu, better to do something than nothing. W. Mamandi again. Has any team ever won immediately after firing a GM and coach? Feels like rebuilding, and I
mean,
hate that.
no, I don't think so. Like,
Let's think about this.
Like, usually this isn't
Well, this
how
has
it
never
works.
happened
Yeah,
in the
this
history
never
of the
happened this
NBA.
late in the season.
No
No
team's
team
ever
has
had
ever
Jokic.
had
This is
Jokic,
true.
though. Yeah, that's true.
THTR_201. Adam, Legs told you on the All NBA pod that if he ever became a coach, you'd be on the bench next to him. Your life's about to change, buddy.
And then Adam left you. Why?
Naveen Nevin. Jokic takes full responsibility, but he didn't do nothing. Sopranos reference for the uninitiated. Amin, I hope Nuggets go for Spoelstra. He will improve every single rotation player and put them in better position around Joker.
Spoelstra.
I think that's one guy who's probably never leaving.
I gotta think Spoelstra has a Brad Stevens like GM job waiting for him if he wants it.
Or just a lifetime contract in Miami. Brandon Howard reminds me of firing George Karl after
Yep.
winning Coach of the Year.
And let's not think about what happened with the Nuggets after that happened.
BXS23. You think Paolo Banchero would fit with the Nuggets?
Honestly, man, anything's on the table.
Sure. I don't know if Orlando would do that for anything.
Him next to Jokic, good fit.
Drew Abreu.
Not good defensively, but good offense.
Easy to cling to what's familiar. The last time the Nuggets made a bang was when we traded for AG. This team has been complacent for far too long. Something to that. Toko Jita. Tyronn Lue won a chip in the same season he took over, so who knows? Maybe
there you
Adelman
go.
could be it.
For David Blatt.
But that
you
wasn't
go.
like 3 days before
That was
this.
mid-season.
That was mid-season.
Yeah,
But
mid-season.
still, there's your precedent. Only one can hope. And you know what that team had? LeBron James.
Yep.
And if you, as far as outliers go to way this stuff works, LeBron
I can't
and
believe we're
Jokic.
going to win the championship.
We're
Let's
gonna
go.
win the championship?
We're
Oh
going
my
to win,
God.
baby.
Leo Barrionitos. Bring in Darvin Ham.
No one
Barrientos,
say the word
excuse me.
Darvin Ham to me again. Is that a word? Don't say that series of words.
Shout out to everyone hanging out in the Toyota chat live for about a 2-hour podcast here. A bunch of likes, bunch of people viewing. We appreciate you. And we do this. We're live 5 times a week, from post-game shows to emergency pods to just our regular show here in the Toyota Lounge at DNVR. Fellas,
Dude, I'm so effing Gundied. Give me
buzzer
Gundy.
beater.
Booth to the
And
gulag.
it says, I'm so effing... Oh, you just read it. Thank you. I thought you were just speaking.
My own feelings. You thought I'm Gundy pilled just because people say I remind them of
Fellas, any
People say that?
any last
my
words here?
voice, yeah.
I mean, it's a sad day, man. It's an emotional day because this really is an end of, this version of this team with Michael Malone leading it. And I mean, I've been covering Michael Malone since like his first day on the job, as has Adam, and I have a lot of respect for him. I think he's a great coach.
I do too.
And it sucks how it ended. And I mean, I was somebody who was definitely hoping that Michael Malone and Nikola Jokic and this core would not just win multiple championships. I'm very happy they won one. I was hoping that this was going to be the group that would win multiple, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Me too.
and it wasn't meant to be, and that sucks. But we still have Nikola Jokic. We still have a really talented
Go.
roster.
Wind getting choked up.
Choking up Harrison
so-
over there. A little
That's the hope,
tears.
man. That's the hope.
Just so you guys know, Harrison's not actually crying if you're a podcast listener.
Oh, I thought he was. I cocked in.
No,
I was like, what did I
not
miss?
crying.
He just choked. No, you can't tell the story of the Denver Nuggets without Michael Malone.
You can't.
Just can't.
You can't.
The Nuggets, obviously, a firing is always bitter, but the Nuggets can't let this be a George Karl situation. It shouldn't be. I mean, this was just a business decision, that they made, right or wrong. And I hope.
Shut up, Leeds.
And I hope that Michael Malone is around. He has the tattoo. Like, I hope this is a thing that, stings for a while, but ultimately becomes a part where, Bill Hanzlik was fired as head coach. He's around.
Yeah.
I hope Michael Malone's around. I really do, because I hope we haven't seen the last of him, and there's more to offer this organization if there's any way possible there.
Yeah, I'll say for me, I really, really got in with the. I mean, I got in with the Denver Nuggets a long time ago, but after the Brian Shaw era, when they brought on Michael Malone, I was extremely dubious. I was like, what are we doing? This is just another feckless move from a feckless franchise. They're just picking a guy that, that is not good enough for the Sacramento Kings. And they're picking up a guy that wasn't good enough for the Washington Wizards in Tim Connolly. And the way that this team grew, the way that I saw them come together, it's been the most enjoyable ride I've ever experienced in sports. Just watching the build to the ultimate adulation, getting to the very top of the mountain. I can't believe it ended like this. I'm extremely sad.
Yeah.
Michael Malone, to me, was such an inspirational figure. I just really appreciate the way the man went about his business. We don't know all of the ins and outs, the interpersonal relationships, how it all works, whether or not being a square peg and with a round hole, it can be a good thing for a long time. But I have the ultimate respect for Michael Malone, and I just want to make sure that people really understand what it is that he brought to this team, what he brought to me personally, what he brought to the city of Denver. And I'm deeply saddened. I really am sad today. I don't think that this is a moment where you can just say that the Denver Nuggets are dead and it's time to move on from this team. Obviously,
Denver Nuggets are very much alive.
We're entering into a new chapter. It's
chapter.
very sad for me. It won't be with Michael Malone in at the lead, but just at the end of the day, that's what I'm left with. I'm left with thanks, and I'm left with deep respect and sadness, and also, if I can look down the hall a little bit, an era, there is some positivity and there is some new energy that's going to be coming in, which is not always can go one of two ways. But I am optimistic for what comes, because again, Nikola Jokic is the greatest player I've ever seen play basketball, and I can't wait to watch him keep doing it.
Yeah. All right. Anything else come in, Kel? All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. 2 hours we did, but this deserved 2 hours.
Are we still doing our show at 3?
Yeah, we have a show. No, of course not. This satisfies. Nuggets back in action tomorrow. Don't miss the pregame show. Don't miss that watch along.
Fascinating.
I cannot wait to see what happens. Hit the like button on the way out, everybody.
Thanks for hanging.